Constantly shifting through the time-space continuum, Metron's three disciples observe the universe from the Mobius Couch.
Are you mean like a minx? Are you lean like a lynx? Are you keen to be seen when you're smelling a rat? Were you there when the pharaohs commissioned the Sphinx? If you were and you are, you're a jellicle cat. Because jellicles are, jellicles do, jellicles do and jellicles would. Jellicles would and jellicles can and jellicles do welcome you to the Mobius Couch, a time-space interdimensional vehicle from which your three hosts talk about Cats. Cats the musical, Cats the movie based on the musical, Cats the biological animal. Welcome to the Mobius Cat. All right, roll call. I'm Alessandro, one of your hosts, and my favorite cat is, of course, the Maine Coon, known for its prodigious size yet gentle temperament. And joining me tonight are Joe.
Oh, hey, Al.
And
Hello.
Patrick.
Hey, I just had to Google jellicle.
That's the intro to Sir Andrew Lloyd. Is he a Lord or a Sir? Lord Sir Andrew Lloyd Webber's Cats, now and forever.
Sir Andrew Lloyd Webber.
It's a scruffy type of cat that was first introduced in T.S. Eliot's Old Possum's Book of Practical Cats.
Yeah,
I see.
So
you know.
Yeah, but today we do generally talk about cats all the time, but today we're talking about Catwoman, the comic Catwoman Lonely City by Cliff Chiang.
My favorite cat's Thundercat. It's my favorite cat.
That's a good one. You mean the musician or one of the Thundercats from the show?
Just that type of cat, Thundercat. That's my favorite
The
cat.
Thundercat. All right.
Yeah.
All right, Catwoman Lonely City. First of all, I want to start by saying Cliff Chiang does the Lord's work on this. He wrote it, he drew it, he inked it, and he penciled it, like all of it. He did everything.
He did literally everything. Yeah.
So that's, I just want to congratulate him on that because it looks great.
Work.
It's
Cliff.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's a lot. It's a lot to do everything on a comic.
I'd imagine, yeah.
Yeah, so good work, Cliff Chiang. I researched Cliff Chiang. Did you know that he is from Manhattan, New York, went to Harvard, and now lives in Brooklyn, New York?
I knew about the Harvard and Brooklyn parts, but not the
I didn't know
Manhattan
any
part.
of that.
Yeah, and that's all Wikipedia told me, other than just listing out that he worked on things.
I think maybe he started as an editor at first and kind of paid his dues.
Really?
Now I believe so, yeah.
I mean, that would make sense why he's good at crafting or like writing the story, because he knows what a good story entails. That's interesting.
Yep.
It's interesting that somebody that's this good at art doesn't start as an artist is my point.
Yeah, he was formerly an
I'm sure he
editor
trained as it maybe
at
before.
DC Comics.
Sure.
Yeah.
But like starting as an editor is a weird in. I guess if you have an into the comics though, good job, because take it,
Yep. And we've also covered another Cliff Chiang work. We talked about Absolute Wonder Woman.
Wonder Woman,
sorry,
New
52. Yeah, New 52 Wonder Woman. So as I said that, I was looking at my bookshelf where I have the Absolute Wonder Woman edition.
You're like,
but it's
that's
Wonder
not
Woman
right.
New 52 that he did with Brian Azzarello. So Catwoman Lonely City was four like double-sized issues. Came out in, when was it, 21? I think it came out in 21. It was pretty
recently, yeah.
I think, it just finished in 2022.
Yeah, and it's kind of a future. So the overall general take is it's the future. Catwoman's been in prison. She's coming out as sort of a middle-aged to elderly person, and she's trying to reintegrate back in a Gotham now ruled by Mayor Harvey Dent. Record scratch. Yeah, Two-Face Harvey Dent is the mayor. So that's kind of the world.
I think it's very progressive that he's horribly scarred, and everyone's like, "Yeah, you can be my politician."
Yeah, nothing about his policies is progressive. But
no,
sure.
That's true.
So that's the kind of
they
overall.
accept him even with his hideous scars because he's not attractive anymore. I don't know if you knew that, Al.
Well, half of him's pretty attractive, I think. Still,
yeah,
half of him's like a silver fox sort of zaddy type, right?
Yeah, I was gonna say, like, compared to every other character, that half of Two-Face aged better than anyone else in the story. like his human half. Well, they're both human halves.
Really? I thought Eddie
Nigma
Nigma looked pretty good.
did too.
Yeah, but
They
on that
passed on
note,
him.
I mean, he is a politician, so maybe he dyes his hair. But
He
doesn't have any gray in his
probably
hair.
does. Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
But that's the kind of elevator pitch for the series. So let's jump right in and talk about this. Let's start with what did you all think? So I enjoyed, like, start to finish, enjoyed. Love the humor in it. Love the story. All the characters were great. The art, I thought he did. So Wonder Woman, Cliff Chiang was still very good drawing Wonder Woman. I thought he did an even better job with this series. I just
Agreed.
love the art. I loved the also the costumes. There's a lot of flashbacks to different points in time in Catwoman's career, and we hit a lot of different historical. We get like the '60s TV show Catwoman, animated series Catwoman, a little bit of year 1 to Long Halloween Catwoman. I liked all the kind of historical costuming going
Completely
on
agree.
with all the
Yeah.
characters. I thought this was a great, and it's 4 issues. They are kind of longer than normal, but still 4 issues. Like a good compact narrative. Loved it.
Yeah.
I enjoyed reading.
Yeah, couldn't agree more. Loved this book. I don't know if it's because it's Black Label and I get to see DC characters say the word fuck or something, or maybe it's just written more adult, period. And they don't waste a lot of time, so it's very succinct in the 4 issues that you get. Oh, great. Yeah, they are oversized, but like still 4 issues, even at an oversized thing, and keeping a very tight narrative like that is awesome. And the art is spectacular. So I think he's grown a lot since his Wonder Woman days. Like he's crushing it out in this, and it's very cinematic, even though he is on the more cartoony end of things. It feels real. It feels like real life, gritty streets of the city and everything that he's doing. I liked his portrayal of a lot of the characters. They were really cool. Like there was a lot of interesting, almost animated, like in the terms of like not a lot of lines used in their silhouettes, but like the detail was there inside of their giant body shape. Like Killer Croc, for instance, is just like this giant light bulb shape for the most part, and then but within that you get all the Killer Croc features, and he looks great. And then like just the designs in general, I liked the Bat Cops. They were really cool. There's a lot of cool concepts in here that he used in his future quote unquote Gotham kind of thing, and really, really good job all around. I can't say for 1 second that I was disappointed in almost anything that played out in the books. But yeah, loved it. Overall, loved it.
Yeah, my take is pretty much spot on with y'all's. I mean, for the viewers, the listeners, we kind of randomly pulled this book out of the ether. None of us had really heard or knew much about it. And
I saw it and I just thought that looks good.
Yeah,
I like Cliff Chiang.
Yeah,
I want to read that.
Yeah,
Yeah, and then that was sort of something I hadn't read yet, so I was like, hey, why don't we read this? It might, we did Wonder Woman. Maybe we'll all like kind of like it. But yeah, it was kind of random us falling on this one. But yeah.
Yeah, but I was pleasantly surprised with all of this because I was going to read it like issue by issue over the span of a week. And I think I started issue 1. And before I knew it, I was at issue 4 and it was like 1:30 in the morning on a Wednesday. I've always loved Catwoman. I'm not obsessed. I'm not like a huge Catwoman fan, but I always love everything about her. The mystery. She's very sexy and she's on her own and she can handle herself and she's not part of a team. And all this kind of stuff. And this story of future Selina is so different from kind of what the typical person would know of how you would describe Catwoman is very different from this Selina you get in this book. Yet at the same time, Cliff does enough with the background of how she got here where it makes sense that she would grow into the person she's in this book. Because in this book, she's part of a crew, she's part of a team, she's not working solo. Not only that, she's the leader of the crew and not really necessarily taking like a maternal like role, but like kind of like an overprotective sister role where there's moments where she's very concerned about the other crew members and she doubts herself, thinking she might be the weak link. And she's starting to think in a way where it's not all about her. It's, she's really trying to protect all of these people. So
there's
it was
a lot of
interesting
thematic like is she too old to keep going? That's why she needs a crew in the first place. But also, it's like
Yeah.
it's a big job, and she knows she needs other people to help her pull it off, kind of thing. And then like it's all about like a big heist or a big job that is, and then that's sort of like an Ocean's 11y like heist movie vibe to it as on its own. And then so you've got her like putting a crew together and like going after like a thing that you don't really know about. But yeah, that's all awesome. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think
so I
her
just
character growth. Sorry, but I just like her character growth is also a real testament to the rehabilitation that goes on in American prisons.
right, yeah, that's what it was.
That's
It
how I
wasn't
do
her.
it.
Wasn't her strong will and determination. It was that. But yeah, I loved seeing this version of Catwoman. I think he did a great job with, she's 55, I think, and when he's describing her internal monologue when she's going on her first few heists by herself about like her knees and everything hurts, you really felt that. I thought he wrote her just like so well and in such a different light than what we typically see Selina Kyle in. The pacing was great and it was a page turner. Like I love future storylines and I didn't get bored with this one because every time you met a new character, I loved this version of them. Like Killer Croc, I could not give a shit about Killer Croc. The Killer Croc in this is like the most endearing, like best version of him ever. I love the Riddler in this, like him being a doting father, and then also like the chemistry between Selina and Edward Nigma like came out of nowhere. You would never think that, but like it worked, and I loved that. I loved everything about Harvey Dent, where he was at. It was like every time I turned the page, what Poison Ivy's up to, like leaving Gotham City, becoming this like quasi drug lord, but like this green environmental terrorist type person, but also she's relaxed now because she's not living in Gotham City anymore. So she's just like peppier and more fun. Fool's Night, which is what we'll get into, like that was a horrifying episode, and I thought Cliff did a really good job of kind of bringing in crazy stuff that's happening current day and putting that into the story, which we talked about in Ultimates, how Mark Millar did a really great job of tapping into the zeitgeist of the everything politics that was happening in early 2000s into that book. I felt you got a lot of that in this for current day. The art, I mean, you already said everything. The art is great. I like the art more in this than in the Wonder Woman run. I loved most of her outfits. I did not love the outfit with the hoodie. I feel like that was a misfire, but everything else was great.
Fair.
I didn't mind it. I thought it was a cool kind of athleisure, almost Spider-Gwen look with a little like hoodie
but it's
over
like
the cat
a
suit.
young woman should be wearing that.
Yes, so let me rephrase that. Let me rephrase
that.
Dress your age, Catwoman.
Look, I agree with Joe because it was like one of the characters, Riddler's daughter, Edie. Like I would love to see her in that. It is like a younger person looking costume to me. Like I like the look, just not on a 55-year-old Selina Kyle. Like what she's wearing when at the end, what she's wearing when they go the heist to get Dr. Fate's helmet, like those costumes I loved on her. But though, yeah, I just thought the one with the hoodie and like the sneakers just was a little, it didn't make a lot of sense.
I just want to say that my name is Alessandro, and I want to distance myself from everything Joe and Patrick have said. I think 55-year-old women should feel free to wear hoodies and whatever they want to wear. And
Look,
feel
you're
good.
allowed to wear whatever you want to wear, but that doesn't mean I'm not going to.
Yeah, that means it doesn't mean I don't disapprove.
I've made some terrible fashion choices in my day.
Lord knows I make them every day. I make them every morning when I wake up.
All right, well, let's
get
into the issues, boys.
Oh shit! I didn't know we were. I didn't know we were gonna get. You want to do that again?
I mean, again, what for? We already did it.
All right. Well, all right. I didn't know that was going to happen. All right. But so issue 1 starts with Selina Kyle's getting out of Blackgate. And Blackgate, for those of you who don't read comics, so Arkham is like where the crazies go, and Blackgate is where you go if like for normal prison raids.
It's the Alcatraz that's still open for Gotham City, basically.
Yeah.
For normal.
So she gets out of. She did 10 years in Blackgate, which is it's a good stint.
They don't really explain why she's in Blackgate. Like it's assumed that she's the one that killed Batman, but is it because of her past crimes? Like they don't really explain.
I think it's basically after Fool's Night she got caught. Yeah. and they were just
I
like,
think
"You've
it's just
done a
that she
million
was a known
things."
villain.
Let
I think
alone
it's
the
that
fact
she's a
that this
known villain,
building
they
blew
caught
up
her.
while you were on it, kind of thing.
Yeah, gotcha.
A quick question: when you first saw the Bat Cops, did you think
Yeah.
they were cats?
They do look similar to cats, yes.
Because until they mentioned that they were Bat Cops, I thought they were cat cops, and I was trying to make
That's even
sense of why
weirder.
would the cops be
Oh,
cats.
interesting. No, I just
But
thought
then
I
they
Bat.
just
called them
no,
Bat Cops.
I saw them as Bat Cops like immediately. Don't they
Oh, I
say that
didn't. I
right away?
immediately was like, "Those are cat cops. What's going on?" But then they're bats, so it's fine.
I
They're
saw
Bat
Bat
Cops.
Cops. Yeah,
Yeah, I saw the bats right away. I mean, maybe it's just because it's Gotham, and I just, even though it's Catwoman running around on the roof that they're chasing, but like obviously, chasing down criminals is Batman's job in Gotham City. So I don't know. Maybe I just assumed.
But so we are introduced to these kind of like SWAT-looking Bat Cops who are now enforcing the law in Gotham. And I kind of liked that. I mean, I liked the irony of like the police taking on Batman iconography to
yeah.
fight crime and enforce. I thought that
Yeah.
was kind of well done.
Also, we learn later on that they're basically everything that their technology is built on, and a lot of their funding just comes from Bruce Wayne's passing and where he left his money.
Yeah.
To like help the city, and Harvey Dent is exploiting that technology and the money, and then like he dresses them as bats. It's kind of like, you son of a bitch, kind of thing. Like it's an interesting when you learn later on where it all comes from. It's just like, oh wow, interesting. Bruce funded all that. Yeah.
Well, I
That's
think
unfortunate.
so we'll get to this a little bit more later, but Babs Gordon makes a good point of like all the crime fighting Bruce didn't do anywhere near as much as just his money did to help clean up the city. And I thought that was kind of an interesting
I mean,
point.
that's a
But I
topic that
also
everyone loves to bring up. Kind of.
Yeah, I also thought she was kind of. I didn't love Babs in this storyline.
At first, I didn't, but she turned for me at certain.
She does
at some
turn.
point, I
She
realized
becomes-
she was like on Catwoman's side. She was just being, I don't know, begrudgingly
yeah.
on her side in the beginning, and I was like, you should be embracing her like right away. Like, what the hell?
I mean, because Catwoman makes a point right away, being like, "Babs, like it's a military state. This isn't a good thing." And Barbara's like, "Yeah, I guess not. It's not perfect. It's kind of." I was kind of surprised that Babs was so pro what Harvey was doing. I mean, obviously it flips, and she's the antithesis to Harvey by the end of it. But that first scene with Selina and Babs.
Yeah, their first conversation they have, it left a bad taste in my mouth, to say the least.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's the first time she's had to probably confront her about her father's death and also Batman's death. So like maybe there's some lingering feelings there. I do love this, like, real quick, like when she's getting out of jail, there's just a silent panel of her just breathing in fresh air as the door's not even shut behind her, and she's like, like I'm outside, kind of thing. And I was like, that's what a subtle storytelling thing of just going like, yeah, that sucked in there. And that getting out of jail after 10 years and just the door hasn't even shut all the way, and you're already like, thank God, kind of thing. Like you're like, wow, man.
Well, that's another thing. To go back to Patrick's earlier point he made about Catwoman's kind of character in this, I did sometimes kind of catch myself and have to like remind myself that, oh, right, this is 10 years in prison.
Yeah.
Later, Catwoman.
Yeah.
The kind of traditional femme fatale, mysterious, coming in from the shadows, just being like sexy and mysterious thing is not what we get here, because this is 10 years of like state or whatever federal penitentiary. And we get a much different Catwoman because of it.
Again, pacing wise, the story, like Cliff crushed it out, but like again, the pacing of just like the breath that he gives himself to, let you linger on a panel before he like moves the story along, like and it's brief, like but he still allows you to absorb certain aspects of like the art of the storytelling versus like the words of the storytelling. And he did a really good job. I mean, most people, if they're trying to write their own comic and draw it, like they're either good at one or the other, and it kind of shows. But for me, for some reason with this, I was just like, he's doing a fantastic job. Just kind of straddling that line of like, I'm writing the story, but I'm also keeping in mind that someone's drawing the story and it's me, so I can allow myself certain time.
And we get, so in addition to the Bat Cops, we also get, there's kind of two prongs to, well, first of all, we see signs that Harvey Dent is the mayor, which is, as a reader of comics, is like, what? But all right, we'll get to that in a second. So Harvey's the mayor, but we kind of get introduced to two prongs of his control. One is, of course, the Bat Cops, the militarization of the police force. The other prong is kind of like the tech oversight part of it.
Yeah,
so
the G-bands. Gotham
Catwoman
bands,
tries to buy a coffee, which if you've lived in New York, this is a very familiar, $20 for a coffee. It's a very familiar experience. And the coffee place doesn't even accept cash. They're like, no, you just got to tap your G-band. Like, you just got to do that. So we're automatically introduced to kind of the two prongs of Harvey's control, the police and then the Cash App or whatever, the
tech
app
oversight,
tracking and control that's going on there.
I do like that she had to break into her own apartment after getting out of jail. That was nice.
Yeah. And then she ends up spending $2.50 for a coffee at a bodega, which maybe in 2017 would have been possible. Not anymore. They're going to probably $4.
Not anymore.
Hey, not anymore. With inflation like it is, but all right, different topic. But so we get introduced to that. And then also we get introduced to Harvey himself, I think, through like a TV segment. We kind of see that Harvey's the mayor.
There's a lot
he makes
of
comment about
breakaways to television and like the news to show you to dump you information, to on what's going on and stuff. But it didn't feel forced. It felt like, I don't know, kind of seamlessly integrated. Whereas sometimes that feels kind of like, they're just jamming this in to get some exposition out, like kind of thing. But for instance, there's with the Harvey with being the mayor and stuff, like you hear some sound bites and the dude in the bodega is watching it on TV. That's playing in the room that she's in. And then, yeah, we get a real quick scene of her hopping into Wayne Manor, basically, to pay her respects to Bruce. And also Alfred. And it's kind of just there, I think, to just kind of show you that they had that place locked down for whatever reason. So obviously later on, being the big heist, you get this. But it is a kind of a touching moment of just seeing, like, she puts flowers at Bruce's grave, and then she kind of like glances over and sees Alfred, and then sees Dick Grayson too, and she's like, shit. And then she leaves flowers at them all. It's kind of nice. But that was
it's
kind
of a macro point, but I did like, because the Bat and the Cat, like the whole, they kind of, Batman and Catwoman have always had this flirtation, but it's never really been like a true relationship. I mean, maybe I guess in current comics with the Tom King stuff, I haven't read it, but I guess they're closer in that. But this was a vulnerability you see in Selina that I think you don't see too often, where it's very clear that she was like truly in love with Batman. She was in love with Bruce Wayne, and it's really crushed her to lose him, because it kind of is implied that everything she is doing, Barbara at one point when they're having a conversation, it says, you got to stop this. Like, nothing you do is going to bring Bruce back. And I think just being able to see that side of Selina was refreshing, because for so long their dynamic is so like just like flirtation, and they never go.
Will they? Like, won't they? Who knows?
I think a lot of that, Patty, does come from the modern comics, because they've they've gotten married. Like they did like.
Oh, are they actually married now?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I don't know if they're technically.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Like,
but I mean, but in recent comics, they have become like the obvious like go-to, like in a future book, like they would be together, kind of thing, or like that's. But it's become more solidly an idea.
But I think to Patrick's point, we get a much more kind of direct emotional link to Selina in this than we have.
Oh,
than
100%.
We traditionally get. Like we know exactly how she feels, what she feels about people. It's a less cagey and like emotionally guarded.
100%. It's less jarring having read the recent stuff, is what I'm saying, though. That's all, So for current readers, this might not seem like a huge deal, but like for someone like us who doesn't really read the current stuff, or is catching up to it slowly maybe, but
I do
like this is a little less crazy that emotion's being shown, but it's still a reflection of like her time spent in prison and like not even had the opportunity to say goodbye to Bruce. Obviously, that's why it's the first thing she does basically after buying a coffee.
No, she said goodbye to him as he was dying, though.
That's true.
As he was burning to death, she literally said goodbye.
That's true.
A little fashion
though,
note, because I know you all like to hate on how she dresses. I do like the pantsuit with the with the brown raincoat she's wearing. Also, I don't know if you noticed, but she's wearing what look like kitten heels when she goes to see Bruce Banner. So little kitten heels on Catwoman. Heard it here first. And then next she goes to see this is the first kind of other villain we get to see, and that's Penguin.
Yeah, he is
who's
not
basically no, he is not aged as well as half of Harvey Dent. I'll say that.
Yeah, no.
But he's just kind of a rich piece of shit. I do love one line he has. So he flies her to helicopter out to see him, and they talk, and then it turns out that he won't give her back her money. So she says, like, you're a piece of shit, and punches him. And he has this quick line of like, you can just take the ferry back home. And I love that.
Yeah.
Where it was like, you're not gonna, I'm not gonna fly you back after that.
I mean, it's the classic like douchebag in charge of your money and you're not getting it back after you've been in jail for 10 years move. Like, you're just like,
yeah, it's the we've read all of this before, but it's the crooked financial planner who's like, oh, oops, your money's gone.
Oh, sorry, I lost it in the market.
Sorry.
They took it off.
I love also how he goes by Emperor Penguin now and not just Penguin.
That was a nice nod.
Yeah, emperor penguins, of course, a famous species of penguin. I think an Antarctica thing. They have the little things on their heads.
I believe
the emperor penguins.
I did enjoy like little bits of Selina's internal monologue when she would talk about being a criminal, because she talks about Cobblepot and how everyone laundered and washed their money through him. Because she was a jewel thief for like a long time. It's like, how does she? So like just like those little tidbits of like, this is how we did things back in the day.
Yeah, this is where I fenced all my stolen goods. Yeah,
right, yeah. And like on a bigger macro point, like because this is DC Black Label and it's a future storyline, you don't really know what versions of these. Like we were just talking about Tom King's run on Batman, where they're like together. But in my opinion, a lot of the flashbacks, it's more reminiscent of like Adam West Batman. And like the fact
that was interesting that they included that in it, and I think they just kind of made an homage to that in the sense of like, this is also in my past. But to that point, Tim is still Robin, like when Fool's Day happens,
right? Yeah,
there's no. It appears as though there's no Damian, kind of thing. Like Tim's Robin, yeah. Dick Grayson's there, like it just seems like it's from
might complicate the true love story if like his son by another woman is there with him. Maybe they just wanted to keep it simple.
Maybe not. I mean,
I'm just saying it was easier to find like Poison Ivy and the Riddler more endearing, because I think we'll get to it, but like the Riddler kind of implies that he's never killed anybody, and I'm pretty sure the current Riddler in current continuity has killed plenty of people.
Maybe
it just seemed the way
like more of an innocent. This derives itself from a more innocent.
Yes, there's a bit more innocence to the villains that I just really enjoyed, where they weren't, not that I don't mind. I think Tom King and Mitch Gerads just did like a Riddler storyline where the guy's a psychopath, and that was interesting. But
like, there's a really great episode of Batman animated series called Almost Got Him. Do you guys remember that? And it's just like the villains.
Yes, yeah, it's like one of the best episodes. Yeah,
it's one. I mean, it's a lot of people's favorite, like in their top 10 of like the best episodes. But it's not even in Killer Croc because it's Batman in disguise. But at some point, Killer Croc's like, "Well, what's your story?" And Killer Croc's like, well, I got him in a quarry, right? And then he's like, and then I threw a rock at him. And then they're all like, what? That's how you almost killed Batman? And he's like, it was a big rock. But like, that's the Killer Croc I feel like is in this story. You know what I mean? Like, it's like really not intelligent, and he's just a big bruiser and kind of randomly pulled off some heists back in the day, but really probably not, kind of thing. But like, yeah, it does kind of feel like it's from more of like an innocent version of the characters.
Yeah, but I think Cliff Chiang, I think he was very consciously doing, like, he wanted to give Catwoman's reminiscences, I think, like a really nostalgic feel. I don't know if innocent is the right word, but a really kind of rosy-colored nostalgic feel. It's like, remember when we ruled the rooftops and we were stealing this and it's that kind of, like everybody feels that way about their past, whether the past was actually that innocent and rosy or not. It's that feeling of things used to be simpler and nobody died and we would just steal jewels and things were great. And, the reality is these were all criminal. I don't know whether they were really that innocent or wonderful and nobody was hurt. is a different discussion. But I think Cliff was more just going for that feeling of, things used to be
he nailed
simpler
it.
when we were just stealing jewels
Yeah.
and all that. Yeah.
So issue 1, she breaks into Gotham Central, which has been,
and
I
she
guess,
doesn't-
rebuilt since the bomb.
It's a
And
failure.
she fails, basically.
Yeah.
I mean, she doesn't get caught, but she fails to. She almost gets caught and has to leave, in order to
Right,
not get
yeah.
caught. There's a lot of, and Al, you'll love this. There's a lot of homages to the Dark Knight Returns in this. There's little bits of narration where she's
Anything
like,
Frank Miller
my knees are
touches
going
is
to
gold,
give out,
man.
or I'm too old for this kind of thing, or there's even a couple of Bat Cops later on named Don and Ron, and that's the Slice and Dice gang member boys that eventually become Bad Boys later.
interesting.
But I mean, there's little nods to that. I don't think it's trying to be that or reference it any more strongly than that. Other than that, also there's a lot of TV bits in this and that as well. So I mean, there's a lot of this is how you get your exposition, is through these soundbite TV moments that kind of catch you up on the story so you can see the next big scene kind of thing.
It's interesting to see those two stories juxtaposed against each other, though, because even the Batman in this, it portrays Catwoman as just a more human character than Batman. Batman is all about the mission. That is all that matters, is fighting the bad guy, protecting the city, when you would think Selina would just not give a shit about people, but she seems to give more concern over the Riddler's daughter than Bruce gives about his actual kids or adopted sons. You know what I mean? To Bruce, those are his, not to totally throw Batman saying he's doesn't have empathy, but he dressed Dick up in a costume when he was 12 and just threw him out there. And it's Selina seems to show more concern over people that she barely knows in her crew than Batman would show to, people that are his wards and adopted family.
I disagree, because I think first of all, basically every character in this book, I love how Cliff Chiang portrays them. But I think Batman has some really tender moments in this. Towards the end, when we see Fool's Night, he's basically blown up and burning and dying. And Selina runs to him, and his first line is Selina, are you okay? Or how are you doing? So there's little moments like that I think do show a tenderness even in Batman. And they have a little back and forth where she says, do you ever think about life after this? And he says no, it's the mission. But then at the end of that, he says, but if I were to imagine life after this, it's with you. So I think we do see a little bit of
But I
chipping
disagree.
away at that
I
armor
disagree with
of
that. I feel it's almost all manipulation on Bruce. Selina, are you okay? Great. I need you to go do this for me. And it's oh, Selina,
I mean, you could read it like that, sure.
I just kind of felt he
maybe.
was.
That's a good point. Yeah,
He was kind of even with the scene you just mentioned about how Batman's I don't ever see me not doing this, but if I ever did, you'd be the woman for me. And it's almost dude, for a fact that you're never going to hang up the cape. Just cut Selina loose so she can find. It's clear in this book, at least this version of Selina is clearly in love with Bruce and has been for a long time. And she wants nothing more than to hang up the cat ears.
We're not going to be able to do this forever, so why don't we just stop now?
Yeah.
And it's thing. Give it to Dick. He's right there.
It just seemed like Bruce was and we'll get to it at the end, but it just seemed like he was a scene that was just programmed to protect Gotham, and that was his mission.
Yeah, no, that's a good point. I mean, I was viewing it more optimistically, but I guess you could also just view it as he's just manipulating her.
I mean, he could be
I always read Batman and Bruce through rose-colored lenses in terms of his quote-unquote manipulation of Robin and the other people around him. I think people latch onto that a little too hard sometimes, and maybe I don't know. I feel there's been a lot of instances where Robin would have gone off and done something insane and dangerous, and it's almost protecting him to let him do what he's doing within the guise of I'm with you at your side the whole time. And also especially with Dick Grayson, there's a very big the overall idea is that he doesn't want Dick to become him, and he knows that he will be in this world that a Batman could exist. He knows that Dick will become him if he doesn't constantly like shove him in the other path. And I feel like Dick Grayson is who he is as Nightwing as an adult because of like Bruce being next to him all the time and like making sure he's not going down a darker path. And Jason is an obvious failure of that, and Dick is an obvious like not failure of that. And that's why with Tim, the third Robin, he even went in a different direction and treated him as more of an adult and said, we're partners. You're not my sidekick. You're my partner. And when you need me, I will be there. And when you don't want me there, I will back off, like kind of thing. And that was their relationship through most of the 90s when I read like Tim's book, you know, and like, I don't know. I don't, it's just so easy to be like, he manipulates children and throws them into war, you know, that kind of thing. Like, and I feel like that's kind of become like too fast for people to fall on as like a reason to be like Batman's manipulative and he's a piece of shit kind of thing, you know. I don't know, and like like, there is something to be said about that side of the argument. So like that's why.
I just wanted to make a point that I think Patrick does make a good point. That like
that's my point. That is a good point, and there are a lot of like educated reasons why he's right, you know, like kind of thing, or like, and that's the way you should read Batman all the time, or like his perspective.
Also, a point I want to make real quick is we should stop blaming Batman for Jason's death because the fans voted for Jason to die. That was not anything narratively related to Batman. That was DC had a poll and fans voted kill Jason. That's why there's nothing like narratively why.
I mean, it was classically like 51-49 kind of thing, or it was very close. Let's put it that way, but just like at Brexit, least a slight over half of the people that voted.
All right, but I just mean if we're attributing agency to Batman of why Jason died, like
I'm
people
just saying,
voted.
I voted for Robin to live, guys. You know, that's all I'm saying. I called that hotline.
Okay. Let's move on from that hotline. Okay. Let's move on. I do want to mention we also get a more in-depth interview with Harvey. And first of all, love Harvey. Like he's a very good, spoiler alert, villain. In this comic. I just want to make a quick point about Two-Face because he's giving like this interview, this kind of feel-good interview of like you're a redemption story, former criminal, mayor, all that. And I just like how he gives it as somebody who is in therapy. I like how Harvey gives this kind of like very standard therapy, non-committal, like, well, you know, there's no such thing as black or white. I had to accept part of myself and move on. And it just all rings very hollow because it's just very standard. Like,
he's saying what he's supposed to say
at all.
In order to appear that he's healed and better.
And another thing about Cliff's art, I love how he draws the fucked up eye that Harvey has. How it's just always completely open and staring straight ahead, and the rest of his face is like moving around and squinting and doing stuff, but that one eye is just like
it's just constantly
wide open and staring.
I don't understand why we don't see Two-Face with like eye drops constantly just been like
And I'm gonna come back to that a little bit later because when Two-Face starts losing it, there's a really cool panel where you see like his monster eye kind of move, and it's really neat. But in general, I like how he just like has this one wide open monster eye. Just
that side of him is permanently it's in comatose right now.
And it looks like the surface of the moon. I don't know what inspired Cliff, but it looks like just the moon.
He's very, again, Batman the Animated Series with the green color instead of like red or pink or mutilated flesh color. Like it's this cartoony green version of him.
Yeah.
With the shocking white hair on one half, you know, kind of thing.
We also learned that he originally was voted mayor because of a well-publicized event where he saved a little Middle Eastern boy from a fire. And
he went viral.
I'm already suspicious as to like what was going on. But
like
I guess it was real, and I guess he saved that boy. But that's why he became mayor.
It was very reminiscent of Norman Osborn's rise to power back in the day in Marvel.
Invasion
and like
Dark Avengers.
It's like the public just washes away all the terrible shit he did as Green Goblin because he did this one good thing, and like let's put him in power now because he did one good thing one time.
Well, that was 10 years ago, you know. he's done a lot of therapy since then.
So Babs
yeah.
is running for mayor against Harvey, and there's a little boy named Wayne that Selina meets like while she's working for Babs. Is that Babs' kid? Who is that kid?
Yeah.
It is.
So is Babs in a?
She
time
says,
out.
"Are
Is
you here for my
Babs-
mama?" She's in the back, and she goes, "Thanks, Wayne. It was nice meeting you." And he goes, "Yeah." And then she walks right in and meets Barbara.
So is
Okay,
Babs?
wait a minute. Babs is in a lesbian relationship with Wayne's mother, right?
Right.
Yeah,
Is that
I
what's
believe so.
happening?
I
I thought
think
that's
so.
what was happening.
I could be
think that's
wrong,
what's
but I mean, it's subtext, so
I
maybe
mean,
I'm
that's
wrong.
what I.
But that's what I got.
That's
From it.
that's what I got from it. I mean, Poison Ivy's also lesbian in this, but Babs.
Well,
is,
Poison Ivy has been with Harley Quinn for
right.
in
That's not
normal continuity for a long, long time.
That wasn't shocking to me, but I was like,
Oh, gotcha.
all I know about Babs is that she's like her and Nightwing have been like on this on again, off again, insanely in love with each other type thing. So
I don't
just-
know. I mean, again, it's
I can
subtext,
see
so-
how dating Nightwing would turn a woman lesbian, frankly, because that does not sound like a healthy relationship.
Maybe I mean I don't know why you're bashing Nightwing all of a sudden now. But
Nightwing's a bit of a flake. I think we can all agree. He comes and goes whenever he fucking wants, and he's a little bit of a flake.
He's grown a bit since those days. I think you're referencing Nightwing from like early 2000s, but DC's definitely taken him into the direction of basically like being like, let's take Batman and combine him with
he's Superman with no
Superman's-
powers. Yeah.
Exactly. He's that's who he's become in continuity.
Okay.
In case you were wondering.
Well, he's also dead, so maybe she finds.
There's that too.
That's true.
So
In
maybe
this
she's
world,
like,
he is dead. Yeah.
well, now, Dick's gone. I guess I'm gonna hang up the dick.
And there is a Rainbow Gotham for All sign outside of her office, so she's definitely for diversity.
Oh yeah,
I liked
that's
how,
there you go. That's if there's not a more
one
clear,
other note,
like
just
subtextual reason to understand like what we're saying is true. I think that's it.
I liked how in Bab's office, Catwoman pulls a Batman, where like she just disappears, and then the other.
Oh yeah,
person's
because
like, "Is somebody here?"
someone
And
else
it's
is
like,
coming in.
Oh no, we still have. Oh, we get to meet Killer Croc too at the end
Yeah.
of issue 1. So she goes to this old kind of dive bar that apparently criminals used to frequent, called the Stock Pot, which is ruled by this stocky old woman. And yeah, Croc is a little portly. He's kind of let himself go.
I love Croc. I love the character design of Croc because he's a true monster. But back, Joe, to like your very early point about not a lot of detail, but just like the wardrobe, Croc's clothes are just like it's just seeing those clothes on a crocodile man is like jarring, but also works perfectly because his body type is like pear shaped, and it is like he wears oversized baggy stuff. It's fantastic.
He's got the sweatpants and the slides on, and he's got like
He's got a fucking fedora on. Like, what are you doing?
no, not a fedora. Does he have a
Patty
fedora
cap.
on?
He's got a patty
Yeah,
cap.
he's got a But it's like, but it's cool because it has the stripes on it.
Yeah.
And also, like, Croc is getting heckled by like other people at the bar.
Yeah.
Yeah, because
constantly.
so
It's pretty
clearly he
great.
spends one a lot of time there, two enough time to where they've all heard it before and they're like, "Shut up, Croc!" You know, like from across the room, and he's like, "Fuck you! What'd you say?" You know, like that's hilarious. Everything he's like, "I used to be the king of Gotham," like, and he's just drunk. Like, it's probably something he says every single night of his life. They're all like, "King of beers."
Yeah. He says, I used to be the king
It's
of
great.
Gotham. And someone says, king of beers. And he goes, who said that?
Who said that? Hey, don't listen to them.
And then
know why.
Harvey comes in. We get introduced to Harvey, and he and Selina have a little back and forth.
scene
Where
is
Harvey's kind of like,
great, yeah.
stay out of trouble. One thing I love about this Harvey appearance, Selina, Harvey says something, I forget what even the question is, but it's like a binary, like make a choice question. And Selina flips him a coin. And she's like, why don't you choose? And you see
That's
Cliff
spectacular.
draws only the monster face. And
It's
you see him
terrifying.
hold a coin this way and then turn it and then just put it down, but without flipping it. He's just like, no,
Yeah.
puts it down, doesn't do it. And I love that. You can almost see the tension of like, I really want to flip this.
Also,
Like,
to
I
your
really
point, you
want to
don't-
flip this, but I will
that
not.
side of his face isn't showing emotion. So like
Right.
without showing the other human half of his face, you're not seeing if he's squinting or is he angry, is he upset, is he frowning? Like you just don't get anything. So you just have this monster half of his face flipping the coin back and forth in his hands before he sets it down. It's really brilliantly drawn. again, Cliff, you're crushing it out. Good
I
work.
just love this interaction because Harvey shows up and he's just like lecturing Selina. He's just giving a monologue, and Selena's just like quietly listening to him. And he gets to the end of it, and he basically says, "Stay out of trouble, because if you don't retire from being Catwoman, you're back in prison." And Catwoman finally just says, "Retire or go back to prison? I don't know, Harvey. You choose." And that's when she flips the coin to him, and that's all she says. And she just knows she just holds her own so easily, and just she's obviously in control of that entire situation, and like just knows how to like really get under his skin. It was perfect. I loved it.
Can't agree more. I guess I have. Don't know. She's such a strong-willed character. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So like that kind of like ultimatum being thrown at her, she's just like, "Fuck you," just right away. You know, like there's no like, oh, maybe I'm doubting myself now from this strong dickhead coming in here and giving me an ultimatum. He's just like, get the fuck out of here.
Like she barely even acknowledges that they're until the very end.
Yeah. Also, the flipping the coin to him is such a big fuck you too. At the same time, it's just she's just like,
oh, it's a very much like, I'm calling you out of your bullshit.
Yeah, here's this. I love how she's kind of describing the heist, or at least kind of hinting at that she needs Croc, and that she's like gonna ask him to come along to help her with some aspect of the heist. And he's just like constantly shouting, and she's like, "Shut the fuck up!" Oh, sorry. Like it's just, oh no shit, really? Keep it down, kind of thing. Like it's just so funny. It's so adorable. He's so stupid. It's fantastic.
And then to wrap up this issue, so she does successfully get into Gotham Central wearing kind of an animated series like costume, and she grabs a little batarang from evidence, and then we see a Fool's Night flashback where Batman tells her to bring Orpheus. We don't know what that is yet, and he gives her that batarang, and that's it. That's when she gets caught.
He says, "Bring me the Orpheus," and then he
bring me.
And then he hands
Orpheus,
her the batarang and says, "Save the city." And we can get into this in 4. Or issue 4, I guess, or like later in the podcast. But I mean, like, do you guys? Is that what he was doing? Was he saying like, "Revive me so I can"?
Yes, he was saying, "Revive me so that we can save the city." Yeah, 100%.
He's dying. He says, "Cave, bring me ... the ... Orpheus."
He's saying, "Bring me to the Orpheus and revive me so that I can save the city."
That's what he was trying to say.
100%. So maybe Patrick's point was more spot on than.
Oh no, yeah, and to that point, that's why I was let's hone in on that for a second. But yeah. So anyway, sorry. Yeah, she gets caught. The roof blows, which we find out later isn't whatever's happening, because you see more of what's going on in the scene later on. But GM passes out. But one of the things she takes out of evidence was, I guess, Jim Gordon's pipe, and she gives it to Babs. And I think that's the moment where Babs goes, "Oh, I should be on her side.
Shouldn't be such an asshole."
Yeah.
Not to harp on it, but just back to the Catwoman Harvey confrontation. When Catwoman flips that coin to Harvey, if you look at the next panel after he catches it, if you zoom in on his face, he is so mad at her.
Well, that's what I mean. She knows exactly the buttons to push. Yeah,
he went in there with all this clout and posturing and confidence, and it's like she just put him in his place with one coin flip. It's so fucking perfect.
I also really enjoy, and we don't get much of it here at all, but it's sort of setting it up. But it's like there's just watching his little underlings like question him and his actions throughout, and it gets more and more to the point where he's unraveling, is just fantastically done. Like the pacing of that, like those little scenes where like he's like, "Was that the right move?" And he's like, "It was, Leland," or like later on in it, like it's really done well. Also, I really like the little glass case with his coin in it on his desk.
Well, right, I was going to bring it up later, but the gradual unraveling of his control, because it starts with, I think in issue 2, he starts tapping his desk.
Yeah, well, let's get to issue 2.
Tapping his desk more. And then eventually he just breaks the case and starts flipping his coin around, like just walking around flipping the coin. And so you can see like the gradual just unraveling of the quote-unquote control he had over Two-Face. All right, issue 2, Collecting Strays. The title and you got to warn me with that because I'm going to talk over it every time.
I did it literally on that way to upset you.
All right, so Collecting Strays, the title and the theme. So we start with a Fool's Night flashback when we see the Joker who's kind of co-opted like Times Square in Gotham, and he's telling everybody, revolt. We're going to revolt. It's Fool's Night. So stuff explodes, and then you get like white dudes in clown masks with automatic weaponry firing on people because that's what Fool's Night is.
Classic Joker move of the everyone's wearing clown masks and all shit. All hell breaks loose kind of thing.
Yeah, very reminiscent of the Joaquin Phoenix movie. But this,
yeah. Well, I mean, that's the 10th time it's been done too, though. You know
really?
I mean?
Okay.
Well, but I think the Joaquin Phoenix one was the first one to directly tie the Joker with like white supremacy.
Oh yeah, well that.
Which I don't
how
think
much of that are you reading from that, Al? Like,
I saw the movie, and the movie was very much
no, I mean
about
in the panels,
like white insecurity.
Oh, in this, I feel
white
like
people? I wasn't really noticing.
I think so. What Joker has done is he's basically become a TikTok sensation, like an influencer, and it just the way Cliff writes the dialogue of him. It reminds me of all these kind of far right influencers like Andrew Tate, who have accumulated this mass of men who are like obsessed with being alpha males and not being held down and being like powerful. So he says Joker's speech, he goes, "Don't worry about being a fool. It's fools who see the truth." So it's like that sounds like something I've fucking heard from a QAnon conspiracy theorist.
Good Lord. Yeah.
And
seriously.
then he goes, "Some of you are so clever, decoding my messages, scrubbing every frame for clues." Like,
yeah,
it sounded very much like
It's
Elon
QAnon.
Musk's.
It's like the QAnon stuff.
But even like the Elon Musk's, like, because I don't even think Joker was putting messages in his or putting codes.
It
in
doesn't
his
seem
messages,
like he
right?
was.
Like
Yeah,
he was just like, "You guys are so smart.
you guys are so smart for finding all those
like-
clues I put. I put all those clues in?
Right?
No, I
Yeah, all those.
Yeah.
But he also says you don't need to be afraid anymore. There's more of us than them. See how strong we are. It's like typical.
Yeah. No, you're right.
Like,
Yeah.
male incel, like show them that you're strong.
I guess I
shit.
wasn't really paying attention to. Well, it's also very pink and red colored, but I wasn't really paying attention to their skin color. But yeah, I guess they are basically all white, at least in those couple of panels.
I mean, even they aren't though. I think Cliff was making like a direct comment on these, like how dangerous social media has allowed like white supremacist groups and hate groups
in general,
to sync up and to coordinate and all that stuff.
Horrifying,
like,
yeah.
If someone like the joke, like you look, I don't know, like we've talked about it, like Andrew Tate seems like a terrible, terrible human being. He's fucking awful, but there are millions of people who worship him and like think he is the greatest person ever, and they want to be him. And it's like, if Joker was a real person, like this could definitely happen. This could definitely happen.
For sure.
Anyways, I mean, that's why this was, I really just wanted to talk about that Joker scene because it was chilling. It was like kind of the scariest.
It's also
I've
reminiscent
seen the
of like
Joker
Batman '89 with like the parade and like he has all those people like laughing on laughing gas, but also kind of listening to what he's doing at the end of that movie. And there's also like little hints of like, again, the Dark Knight Returns where he like walks out on Batman and like murders everybody and like it's just this whole like. There's also a Batman Animated Series episode where it's New Year's Eve and they all have Joker masks on and they don't even know. They're not like in on it, but they like put on Joker masks and he's like, and then therefore Batman can't find the Joker in the crowd and that's why he's like,
but that's what I think. I mean, I think Chiang. I'm going to call him Chiang and not Cliff because I don't know him personally, or actually whatever Cliff. But I think Cliff was. What I think he did
wait, spend another minute waffling back and forth on that.
I'm gonna call him Cliff. I'm gonna stick to Cliff. But I think what Cliff did well is exactly that, like blending the kind of classic, because the whole Joker co-ops a parade into mayhem has been done cartoon, comic, and film.
Yeah.
So he's taking that imagery, but then blending it with kind of the topical social media, incel, white supremacy stuff gone wrong, and he's blending the two in this. So I think that's why I think that's like a cool kind of.
Also, I mean the scene of the Bat family like on the rooftop, and they're like, "All right, let's go into action," and they're all about to leave. Like again, there's a lot of animated series here. Like there's no Red Hood.
Oh yeah, for sure.
You know, like there's no like even Tim is drawn kind of young and like with this crazy spiky hair and the sharp cat eyes, like big eyeballs to his little mask, you know, kind of thing. Like Nightwing's there, Batgirl's there, Tim's there. There's no Red Hood. There's no like Damien. There's no like it just feels very animated series, like in terms of where the Bat family got to when that series ended, and that was it,
Right,
like kind of
yeah.
thing.
To Patrick's earlier point about Batman being an asshole, I do like how Barbara's like, "Oh, I'm gonna go save my dad," and Batman just says, "No,
No,
no, you can't do that.
no, you go here, you go here.
You go do
Me and
something
Catwoman will
else."
handle that
Yeah,
because
yeah, just
we're
trust
stronger and
us,
better
but
than.
like, no, you go do something else.
Well, it also adds to Barbara's like current day wrestling with should I listen to Catwoman? Like failed to save my father, like kind of
Right.
thing. And also Batman died, and like like kind of thing. Like
That was
adds
brutal.
weight.
We glossed over that. Like Barbara says something to Catwoman about Fool's Night, and Catwoman's like, "I didn't kill them, Barbara," and she's like, "You
Yeah.
didn't save them either, bitch." Like, what? Babs, chill out. What are you talking about? Selina also loved those people. Like, she also lost someone. I don't know.
It seems overly harsh. Also, there are graves for Bruce, Dick, and Alfred, but Tim is obviously still alive out there somewhere. You're just like,
I would
what's going on
assume
with
so.
him?
Yeah.
They never bring him up.
Then we get back to the present time. So Barbara and Selina have kind of a coffee thing.
Yeah, this is Barbara kind of going like, I was wrong. I'm gonna help you. Like kind of thing. Moment.
And I did want to talk about. I love the little workout montage we get with Croc and
Yeah.
Selina's pretty funny, because when Selina's like, Croc is just like not really living up to the billing, I guess. And Selina said, "I thought you were strong," and he just says like, "I told you my hips hurt. I can't." I just thought that was funny.
I'm old now.
Yeah, he's
Also,
like, "It's my hips. Otherwise, I could do
this
it."
kind of starts a cool passage of time, like pacing moment when they say like 2 months to election day and like 2 weeks to election day, and they keep doing that, and like they're working out and showing them training, and it doesn't just skip to the next scene where like suddenly they're running around on a rooftop and you're like, what? I thought he was old and beaten up. Like he puts in the work in the pacing of the story to realistically show that they're working towards a goal. And I really appreciate that part of the story. But yeah, there's a lot of funny moments in those.
Also, there's a
beats,
cute
but-
little panel where Selina and Croc are asleep, like leaning on each other watching TV. So
Yeah.
there's cute little kind of character
great.
moments like that. Also, apparently, Croc doesn't flush the toilet.
Yeah. That's
No,
disgusting.
why would you? It's
That
ridiculous.
was a choice to make, but yeah.
I mean, he lived in a sewer.
And then,
He's
I like
probably used to just taking a dump off the side of into some running water.
this next part I like too. So Selena goes to Chinatown to get to hook up with a friend on something, but there's a funny moment where the police are just like stirring shit up because they're the police just overreaching, and they're in Chinatown. So this old Asian man like gives them guff or something, and the police just say like, "Well, where's your green card?" And they scan him, and one of the bystanders just says like, "Well, that's fucked up. Like, you shouldn't be able to do that."
He says, that's fucked up, and the cop goes, mind your business, while he puts his hand on his pistol.
Yeah,
Like,
and that's
Jesus,
again.
can we be
But talking
more
about
like
the
present with
talking
police
still
brutality
about
bullshit?
like the topical political things. Like this is very
Yeah,
police overreach, Black Lives Matter. All of that is very.
this
much,
kind of gets.
in
This
the
is
film.
kind of the first intro to this, but there's a lot of really fun clothing nods and choices with brand names that are changed to superhero names and stuff like that. Like the two kids that are in the store that are going to try to steal sneakers are wearing like Red Lantern gear and
Oh, yeah, I
like,
didn't
you know,
realize
like
that.
a yellow, and you're just like, there's little stuff like that. And she's wearing a
Yeah.
Superman sweatshirt, but looks like a Kangol. Lego. There's a lot of cool stuff like that in this. I really like his
she's got,
nod to current fashion, but just taking the Nike swoosh and making it a bat symbol or whatever, like whatever he's changing it to at the time. But
Well, she has Superman is in like the supreme symbol.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's all sorts of stuff like that. Yeah.
I don't know enough about fashion to.
I don't know who she
And
is.
then
Rowena. Is she?
her Kangol hat says Kanga, which is apparently a DC alien kangaroo-like species that was used by the as mounts
That's
by
my
the
point.
Amazon.
So there's like a lot of little nods like that. It's great. On this note,
Yeah.
this woman makes her the hoodie outfit that Patrick hates.
Yeah.
that
it wasn't-
hates. Yeah, Patrick hates old women in hoodies, so that's canon. That's canon now.
Oh, a funny note here with the younger son that's helping her out, that it's going to like join her team on the tech side of things and join the crew. Has like, they discuss having a poster. He's like, I had a poster of you in my
Yes.
room, and it's like, it's very specifically a Brian Boland illustration of Catwoman where it was like, you know, tits and ass hanging out
It's
everywhere, like
out.
very
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
you know, kind of. It's just funny because like we get that juxtaposed later on with a very different, but it's a real Catwoman image, is my point, from comic
Right,
books, you know,
yeah.
kind of thing. And then that juxtaposes later with a different person saying, "Oh, I had a poster of you on my wall," and she's like, "Which one was it?" And they kind of like flash to the image. Anyway, really, really subtle nods to how comics were drawn and now are
Well, yeah.
now drawn, you know, kind
Well,
of
we,
thing.
well, we
I
kind of
like
talk
that.
about quite a bit. Yeah, it was.
And also the young man there is wearing a Black Adam shirt.
Yeah.
Because that movie
Black
did
Adam,
really
famous
well.
for being a Dwayne Johnson film that we'll never see again.
We're actually going to watch that for the show or for this podcast, Al.
Well, so Rowena is her friend, and I guess I don't know if she's. I'm assuming she's a pre-existing character in Catman or Catwoman lore.
If she is, I don't recall
don't-
her at all.
So Rowena, her actual operation is she makes suits and gear for, I guess, any type of super villain or superhero or gray area hero villain type person. That's her business. So she's the one who makes Catwoman's gear, and then
Yeah.
Winston, I guess, is her son. That's
Yeah.
he's like a hacker, I guess, and I guess that's how he gets
Or just
incorporated
good with
into-
technology, I guess. I don't know
Yeah.
if it's literally a hack. Yeah. I like her constant costume, like when she's in plain clothes, like her constant disguises. Like, I'm going to put on this white wig, or I'm going to, and then she
Yeah.
throws them in garbage cans as she like leaves a scene. Like, she's constantly, when she's out in public, she's constantly like hiding who she is. And I
Yeah,
really,
so she
really
goes-
enjoy
what-
that.
One thing I didn't get is why she needed to like pretend to be a rich woman at a hotel. I didn't
I guess
really
because
get why
it's
that.
just so like, but the cops are so looking for her to keep track of her that she's trying to like shake a tail like nonstop, like throughout the
I
series. And
guess
I
yeah.
really enjoy it.
But we do meet the Riddler when she checks into this hotel as like
Yeah,
a
his
duchess
name's
or
Joe
whatever.
Enigma.
Eddie Nigma. Eddie, I do. He made a comment. I can't find the exact line, but she was talking about how he used to dress in like tights and be crazy, and he just said like, "Look, I used to do a lot of coke."
I used to do a lot of coke. I think that's when they meet up for drinks and they're talking until like
Yeah.
3 a.m. I really
Yeah,
liked
yeah.
that scene, by the way.
Loved it. I loved everything about their
As the time
relationship.
kept going on, and
Yeah.
she's like, "Just one more drink," and then they keep talking, and like, and it's just like 2:30, 3:30, you know, like in the morning kind of thing. And you're like, "This is awesome," because that's. I mean, if you're hanging out with your friend that you haven't seen in a long time and you're drinking, like that does happen. And, like
Yeah.
you'll just be like, "Oh shit, it's 4 a.m. We gotta go to bed." Really liked it. He is also drawn very animated series ish, like
Oh yeah, for sure.
the way he looks, you know, like kind of.
Yeah, I also love how at the end of it. Well, and I agree. Like,
But
it's
again,
a
also
wonderful-
a flashback to him in the tights out is very Jim Carrey.
Yeah, that is.
So there's like a little bit of like, you know,
Well,
remember
that's
when
what
you
I
used to do
mean.
that?
They
And it's like Jim
reference
Carrey,
all of-
Joker, or Riddler going like, ah, and you're like,
But that's what I
Jim
meant when
Carrey.
I first talked about Catwoman. Is they reference kind of all media past. Of,
Yeah,
like, comic, television, film. But it's really like a wonderful little scene, and you know they're catching up is like really sweet and genuine. I also liked how at the end at 3 a.m., you know, again, it was like midnight, 1, 2, 3. Eddie writes down his number for her, but on the last digit leaves a question mark, which was such a cool little like Riddler thing to do.
I know
thought
it's
that was
such a like
neat.
subtle like I can't just give you the answer. Like I know there's only 9 combinations of this, but I have to fuck with you a little bit. That's fantastic.
You do get this one bit too. It's 12:58 a.m. Riddler just says, "World's greatest detective. I had to take a shot at him." And then Selina says, "Many shots." And he goes, "But I never hurt anybody, not seriously." And then he says, "I think Batman got a kick out of it." So it is. That was one of the scenes where I was like, "This isn't. This is like a version of the Riddler that isn't necessarily like main DC continuity." That's what I like about the Black Label stuff is that you can tell these interesting stories with these different perspectives of these characters without having to worry about how
About
fits
where
in
it
with
comes from
whatever.
or where it's going.
Yeah.
And then we get a flashback to kind of an early meeting between Batman and Selina, and here she's wearing kind of like an animated, not an animated, but the live
Batman
action
66,
60s show,
yeah.
sort of costume.
It's like an Eartha Kitt type. Also, Bruce is
It's
drawn,
not,
although
who
he
is
looks
the-
like
who
Batman
is-
from the comics. He is drawn in that like pill boxes along his utility belt. It's blue and gray. He has the yellow oval around his bat symbol. You know, it's very like It's not Adam West, but it's very Adam West looking kind of thing.
Yeah. So sorry, Joe. It's more of a, just because I'm looking up the specific actress, it's a Julie Newmar look for Catwoman. I mean, Eartha Kitt was also Catwoman in the TV show.
Well, Eartha Kitt, Julia Newmar, they all wore the same Catwoman.
Yeah, but I meant the hair. The hair part is more.
Oh yeah. Oh
Julie
yeah,
Newmar,
yeah.
And then they figure out that like the MacGuffin they have to steal is a Green Lantern ring. I don't even remember why, but they needed to get a Green Lantern ring to break into something.
I think they need that in the same way that they need some Clayface stuff later. So I think it's for some sort of disguise or distraction to get
To
them.
break into the Batcave
Yeah,
or something.
yeah.
Well, yeah, the whole thing is to get into the Batcave and get past its defenses or whatever.
Oh yeah, because this allows them to teleport. So that was like
Yeah.
that was getting them in past like a certain point. You know.
Yeah, so they have to break into Star Labs because that's where Alan Scott's original Green Lantern ring is being held. And so Selina puts on that hideous hoodie that Patrick
Which
doesn't
she
think
says,
It's
by
not
the way,
hideous.
dirty
It
shit
just
wear.
looks hideous
perfect.
on her.
She says
Patrick,
it's
all right.
perfect without the dumb purring effect on the purr.
Yeah,
bar
she
of
just
that
says
word.
literally perfect, not the play on words perfect. Yeah.
But the
Yeah.
word bubble is like yellow, which makes me think she said it was some sort of, I don't know. It's weird how it's yellow where everything else is white.
That is random.
Yeah.
Maybe it's just meant to stand out from the white background.
I don't know. It just looks weird on her. I'm sorry. I don't dislike the character design. And as I said, like with Edie, Riddler's daughter, who kind of becomes the next Catwoman at the end.
Oh,
I think it would be a
love
great
that
look
version
on
of the
her.
costume, by the way.
But
It looks great.
yeah, like
We don't have
The
to keep
Cheshire
talking about
mask with the big eyes, lenses that you can see through. It look really cool.
It's fine. Look, Patrick, you don't think women over 40 should wear hoodies. That's fine.
Also, Croc is dressed up as a Hawkeye like bro from the streets, bro.
Well, he's
bro.
also another fashion note. So he's wearing a telepathic ape shirt, which is like Grodd or whatever, which of the
Yeah.
12 DC apes. And that's like a bathing ape is a real Japanese brand. So a lot of these are like based on real brands.
I mean, the crazy thing is, if DC did put out clothes like this, I would buy all of it. I would buy all of it.
We should just make
Like-
shirts. Like we should take all of Cliff Chiang's designs and just make shirts out of them.
I mean, honestly,
So, like
DC
people
could,
will buy this.
get
DC
a
people will buy
decent-
these.
decent revenue stream, because even
They
someone
could
who's
do
not
all
a
of it,
comic,
yeah.
someone who's not a comic book fan would buy a telepathic ape shirt without. They just think it's a cool design, and it's like,
Yeah.
it's a DC character named Grodd. I had no idea.
Cliff, sell your shirts.
Get it, man.
Stop. You can retire from drawing comic books.
I mean, they could do a lot of stuff too. Like, I don't know, like Maison Margiela could be Monsieur Malin, all that stuff. They could do all that
Yeah.
stuff. Mm-hmm. All right.
I'm looking at this scene with her having broken in to get the ring, and I guess I had never really paid attention to all the stuff in the background in terms of like what's in that room, but there's a lot of stuff there. Like that's Prometheus's helmet with his shoulder pad weird
Right.
thing with the circles from JLA right there. There's
Yeah.
definitely a Sandman gun and mask.
There's also what looks like a lightsaber.
I think that's Starman's rod before
Is it
the big
long enough?
lance with the hook on it.
Maybe. There's also a book. There's some kind of book in there.
That's the never-ending story.
Oh.
Don't read that. It never
It
ends.
never ends.
Yeah,
So
so
they
she
get
gets
the ring,
the
but then-
she gets the ring, and then they go like, "Well, don't forget the battery," and she's like, "What battery?" And it just smashed, and she's like, "Shit." So that was kind of funny. Also, Winston is wearing a different version of Black Adam shirt
Yeah,
again.
it's very into.
I'm gonna keep
doing
calling
that.
out the awesome fashion. What do you think
And
of these
then-
Star? So are those like plays on the Guardian? That's got to be right. Star Labs.
Oh yeah, probably
The gold, and
has
the
to
blue, and
be.
the
Gold.
Has to be, yeah.
vague star shape. Yeah,
or booster.
But so she
Goldish, kind
does.
of?
yeah, they do look kind of Booster Goldy.
Yeah, so
And they
she
have
gets away,
freeze
but she has
guns,
to
like
use
green.
the ring to teleport, which unfortunately drains it. But she gets caught on camera, and so we get a little. So one of the things I like is Harvey's relationship with his chief of police is pretty hilarious, or commissioner is pretty funny.
Oh yeah.
I
It's great.
fucking
this is like-
love. I love it. I love everything about their
I know.
dynamic. It's perfect.
They hate each
and
other,
so
and
this
they-
is another good one
great.
where they catch Catwoman like on camera stealing things, and so Harvey's doing this whole like speech, and he goes, and how is this criminal still on the streets? And then the next
He's like, I
panel
don't know. I
is
was going to ask the commissioner the
just
same
going
thing.
the commissioner's just like, the fuck? And he's like,
He said, "What?
Yes.
Now? Fuck that guy."
No, he said the fuck. Like it was such a perfect human reaction. Like the fuck.
Yeah, because there's just all sorts of back and forths of Harvey just doing shit and making life difficult for the commissioner.
Such politician bullshit, though. That's why it's so good.
Yeah.
And then he always puts his hand on the commissioner's shoulder and he's like, "No, don't worry. It's all just for it's all a show. We're good. We're good."
Also,
and
some
the commissioner's just like, "Fuck."
On one hand, you could kind of say like this is just a throwaway moment because they did this whole fucking thing to get a ring, and then she uses it and they can't use it again because it doesn't have any charge, and you're just like, well, that was a pointless half of an issue kind of thing. But like, I don't feel like it was pointless at all. It was like them like fucking up leading up to the big heist. Like this, it's kind of like a repeated process of her being like, "Fuck, I'm old. Oh shit, my knees hurt," and stuff like that. And, like they kind of do a little thing later on with like Leslie Tompkins instead of kind of like injecting something into her, kind of going like, "I'm not supposed to give you more than 3 of these a year. You've had 4 in the last 2 weeks." Like kind of thing. Like in terms of like her making it to and through the last quote unquote big heist. And it's just really cool build up to like, being the second issue, it's a really cool build up to the final heist.
It's a little bit pointless. It is a little bit of just a big
it is, but like it's kind of like showing them going like, "Fuck, we're not good at this. I haven't done this in 10 years," kind of thing.
I don't think it's I think the purpose of this is to establish that Catwoman is the fucking leader that calls the shots. Because the reason it gets fucked up is because Croc and Winston jumped the gun with the diversion, and Selina did not need them to do that. And because they do that is why she gets cited and why she gets chased. And it's after this where it's like she kind of rips into them, being like, "If I say don't move until I say so. I'm the expert. I'm the one that's in charge." And it's like after that, going forward, she is the boss. Like everyone defers to her.
So you're both right, but I just mean from a strictly plot narrative thing. This is just a standard heist movie. They've got to do a mini heist first that doesn't go right, and it builds. But there's nothing really meaningful.
Well, just like also like, hey, there's all these magical items in the universe on this planet that we could use. Like, why don't we try to steal one of those?
It's one of those dumb Lord of the Rings arguments of like, why didn't they just fly the eagles to the
right?
end?
Yeah,
and you're just like, because they aren't. Do I have to really explain this? Kind of thing. But like, this is one of those moments. Like, why don't you just get a Green Lantern ring? Kind of thing.
Could have flown the eagles though, right?
No.
Why not?
Because they would have got the dragon things would have gone after them, and I don't
until
know.
they fought all the battles that they fought, and
they can't confuse the dragons long enough to drop it in the volcano.
I feel like there's a lot of dragons as well, though. I don't know.
There's only
like every single one of them would have been shot out of the
rings.
air by the hundreds of thousands of orcs that were on the other side of that fucking door. And the whole point is that they emptied the armies out, and they still barely
shoot
snuck
an
in.
Arrow at an eagle 1,000 feet in the air.
Is all they have is arrows? Is that what
you think? They can't shoot that high.
All they have
Eagles
is arrows?
fly way higher than an arrow.
Yeah, you're right.
All I'm saying is I never saw more than like
missiles,
5 eagles at a time. So if there's only like a few eagles, I can understand why the eagles would be like,
God damn it, we're done with this conversation.
Anyway, moving on. The commissioner and Harvey's relationship, again, I love it because I don't know if we've mentioned it, but the reason that Selina got out after only 10 years is because Harvey pulled strings to get her out, thinking that Selina would go back to her old ways, which would reflect bad.
Yeah, he needed the PR
and blah blah blah. So I love how she's become this problem that Harvey can't control.
Also,
now.
I thought he knew. I mean, maybe I'm completely wrong on this, but I thought that he wanted access to the cave and knew she would go after it for whatever reason.
So I thought it was more about winning the election and like.
It definitely was, but it was also unlocking the secrets of the Batcave.
Yeah.
Like he needed to get into the Batcave.
Oh, I missed that part. But I just love how
it was a both. I think it's a both.
Oh, it's definitely both.
Needed to get the
but I'm definitely.
Batcave,
but there's another layer of it, like
beyond
just like fucking everything up and making me look good, kind of thing. Like there's a level of like I want her to break into the Batcave too, so I can get all the goodies inside to further my cause of assholery.
I just love how there's always problems and the commissioner confronts Harvey and Harvey like does the typical political bullshit and he goes, I'll handle this stuff. You just worry about Catwoman. And it's like,
I'll take care of the rest.
Fuck you, man.
Yeah, the elevator, the light's closing on his face. Like there's a beam of light. Look at the elevator doors closing. You can just look at his face, going like, "Fuck you."
Yeah.
Like,
Um,
what the fuck are you looking at? God, why are you yelling at that random scientist guy? Calm down.
I did like after like Selena's crew's regrouping, she asks about the battery, and Winston goes, "Destroyed for real, some crisis event." And I felt like Cliff was making fun of how many crises there's been.
Yeah.
Like Winston, who's like a computer savant person, doesn't even
And
know.
he's just like, I don't
crisis
know.
is. I don't know.
Something with the word crisis.
So many
There's
crises.
been a lot of them. Yeah, it's good.
Yeah, and then we
Also, she's wearing a. I mean, well, first of all, Edie is wearing like a Wonder Girl type outfit from Young Justice, but also like Catwoman's wearing like a canary. This is like a black canary uniform from late 90s.
Oh wow, yeah.
I love that. I don't think they've ever really put colors to the Gotham Knights before, other than like black and yellow, probably.
Right, yeah.
But like they're clearly driving home the Mets color scheme with Croc here too, and even the way his hat looks. That's an old school Mets hat right there, like with the cursive writing and stuff. That's great.
I also just love the interactions with everyone in the crew because Croc goes, "So we're split in 5 ways now," after he brings on Riddler, and and Riddler goes, "Hey Croc, what's jack shit? Split 3 ways."
3 ways. Also, he's wearing a purple scarf and a green. It's a little subtle, like the subtle things subtle choices Cliff makes aesthetically throughout the entire book run. It's fantastic.
I mean, all the characters are great. Yeah, that Eddie Nigma line is awesome.
Yeah.
We also get the first look at the cat people, because Selina has inspired a grassroots street movement, and they're all wearing kind of like
also
how like white incels would wear Joker stuff in Fool's Night. Minorities and women are wearing cats.
Yes,
in this one.
And I don't know if we mentioned like the big thing is as well that Harvey Dent made masks illegal. So just wearing a mask.
Just wearing a mask is like
all these people are
asking to get arrested, and protests will be shut down if you're wearing masks, and so on and so on. There's also a large gentrification storyline going on. Like they're ripping down old Gotham, they're making high-rise apartments, they're kicking out all the poor people.
No, it's not even gentrification, it's a stadium. They're trying to it's the typical like stadium deal that is
that's even worse. And the point is they're shoving out the poor in the old neighborhoods and ripping down buildings, and they're making something new.
They're ripping down Crime Alley, which is where Batman was born.
Is it the Monarch Theater? Yeah, the Monarch Theater they keep showing.
Yeah,
man, I really gotta say, like, I really respect Cliff's attention to detail. Like Joe, that mention of the black canary, like I did not catch that black canary.
Oh yeah, it's subtle as shit. And also, that was not a very popular costume, and she didn't wear it very long. Yeah. So like, if you didn't like have deep cut fucking DC knowledge, you just might have like moved right past it.
Also, I like there's kind of like a cheetah as a Versace logo. Sweater going on. Yes. That was kind of interesting.
They break into Ace Chemicals later. Croc's wearing an Ocean Master
wetsuit.
It's
all over the place.
Yeah, it's everywhere.
But it's so subtle that like you don't notice it right away. That's why I think this would be a very marketable thing for DC to do. Idiots.
Idiots. Well, why don't you have a line of wetsuits called Ocean Master? One comic nerd out there would be like, "That's my jam."
I don't know, Patrick. There's probably all sorts of like licensing gray areas that they.
I don't know. I think you got DC's trademarks are strong. I think it's transformative use. I think it's fair use. I don't think they have anything to worry about. It's obviously parody. Parody's protected. You're good to go. Go for it. So Edie, Riddler and Edie is the Riddler's daughter, and I feel like they build her character kind of similar how we talked about in Strange Adventures, how Tom King used Batman's respect for Mr. Terrific to kind of establish and bolster how great Mr. Terrific was. Selina is constantly, her internal monologue is like, wow, Edie is like, even at my best, I don't think I was as good as this girl is, like naturally with no training.
Edie's really good. For not having trained in this shit, she's awesome.
Well,
Yeah,
yeah.
also,
awesome.
well, just a very subtle character. Like, she's not shoved down your throat. Like, it's
Right,
just
yeah.
kind of there in the background. She's training her slowly. Like, she takes her on a few, easy missions, so to speak, kind of thing. Like, it's really cool.
Another quick thing about the little details they do, like I like in this kind of chemical, they're
Ace
breaking into
chemical
this
plant,
chemical
yeah.
plant to get a thing that we then find out later is to bribe Ivy into helping them. Well, not really bribe because she's her, but to sweeten the deal into helping them.
Yeah.
And when they all break out and Croc has swum out, there's this little panel of you just see Croc's eyes, kind of like a real crocodile poke out of the water.
Oh, wow, yeah.
And I just, again, it's like all these little panels and details that are really neat. And looking back,
Yeah, because how else would he do it? You know what I mean? Like, it makes so much sense to draw him that way. Is he just going to stand out of the water wearing a purple jumps or like a wetsuit? No, he's going to wait, and when they land, he'll be like, "Here I am." And it makes so much sense. But at the time, you're just like, "That's beautifully drawn. What a smart little nod to like an actual crocodile."
But it's also the sense of, because what we've seen so much of him leading up to this is kind of comic relief and like, oh, I'm too old for this shit. So, but we get these little glimpses of like, oh, right, that's like a frightening real crocodile kind of action. Like, this is the killer croc we remember. So like little hints like that are just neat to see in the comic.
Yeah, it's cool. It's also cool to see them doing a little mini heist and not failing. So that was a fun little thing. But yeah, we get a scene of Harvey tapping away on a desk there, and during a debate.
That's what I mean. Like, as we start to the first sign of the walls breaking is we just see the monster hand just tap. Like during the debate, it's just tapping.
So we get the intro of Poison Ivy in Brazil.
So yeah, she's thick in this.
Yeah,
like 3 C's thick. She's a big girl now.
yeah.
But she looks good. This. I gotta say, she looks good. She hasn't
that
aged.
It's a realistic version of a woman that's aged realistically. And I appreciate.
No, but she hasn't aged. Her face looks like she's 20. It doesn't look like she's aged, actually.
Well, because I don't think she actually has aged in the way like a normal human would, and I think her weight gain, or she's no longer this femme fatale looking person, but Selina and her have a conversation, and Selena's like, "I've never seen you this happy," and Ivy's like, "This is the happiest I've ever been. I got out of that city. I wasn't."
It's a little dig on like how a female is supposed to look versus like what like this is how I would naturally look.
Yeah.
Also, if you kind of look around, everyone that works at Ivy's operation is a woman. There's no men that work there.
Oh yeah. Also, they have the arm patch is so hilarious. It's literally, I mean, it's basically the Girl Scouts like cookie like on her shirt.
Oh yeah.
And I love it. It's just like a Girl Scout, like the wavy hair and the woman's face, but there's a flower on it. And I was just like, what a hilarious little thing there. Also, no one else cares about this, but there's a G.I. Joe reference in how Edie is dressed in this.
Well, I mean, you were right that nobody cares about it. But moving on. But anyway, but I love. I know it sounds like a broken record because I've said this for every character, but Ivy is amazing. Like, I love how
her character design,
how Cliff writes and draws Ivy just like everybody else is. She's awesome. Yeah,
I loved Ivy so much, and this is a spoiler for the end, but like I genuinely didn't like the choice that they had her die. I was like, I was
like, no.
Yeah, I was like, I feel like there's been enough people that have died that like I kind of was really disappointed to be like, oh my god, why is this happening? Anyway, but yeah, I loved Ivy in this. She was great.
I love her just going like, I'm so excited. Like when she's like after they kind of like talk through the deal and like what they need her to do. Just little things like that are
I just love her because it's like, again, going back to like she's a lesbian, but when you think back to Uma Thurman's version of Poison Ivy being the femme fatale, that's the ultimate man's like desire and all this like sexiness, and it's like she shed all of that bullshit. She left all that in Gotham, and she's just being herself.
Yeah,
and
there's a really sweet scene where Eddie. The Riddler, Eddie, asks Selina to dance, and she like hesitates, And then Ivy grabs his hand and she says, "Redheads got to stick together, Eddie." And she winks at him and they go dance. Like, it's just a very sweet scene. And like Ivy is
I took that as
really,
she was winking back at Catwoman.
She's winking
Eddie's
at Catwoman.
like, the kids are showing us up, come dance or join me. And Catwoman's like, Eddie, I don't know, like kind of starting to be like, I don't want to dance kind of thing. And she's like, me first.
No, right.
And then she kind of like winks back at Catwoman. Like, I know he's your, because I think it's a subtle, like, I see what's going on here between the two of you, which I did not pick up on the first time I read it. I was like, wait, what?
No, right. But I just mean, it's a sweet scene of like, everybody seems, they're friends. Like they're happy, they're friends, they're together. Like, it's a neat scene in that sense. And then Selina and Edie have kind of a talk about, Edie's like, "Will you train me?" Selina doesn't really want to do that. And then, let me think about it. And they kind of leave it at that. We'll see. We'll see what happens.
Meanwhile, we get a quick Two-Face. He's losing it. He breaks open.
Yeah, so he straight up breaks the glass and just takes his coin back out.
Holds it up.
Yeah, he's over it. He just wants his coin back. And he's got this weird kind of like Steve Bannon with a beard guy who's like on his iPad and like telling him shit like that. I didn't quite understand this character, but he's there. All right, episode 3, issue book.
It's issue 3.
Book 3. It's actually the fucking symbol. Book 3, titled and themed Blood and Thunder. Okay, that one worked. So I liked this. We get a flashback of Selina in jail.
Yeah.
Which was pretty tragic because we get to see her. She meets a new friend. She doesn't even want it.
No, she wants nothing to do with her. She's like,
well, that's the thing. She doesn't. Yeah. But then eventually she begrudgingly protects this friend and gets a friend, and that friend dies.
This is brutal, man.
And then you see her never again.
Also, it happens relatively quickly because it's like 10 years ago, 9 years ago.
Yeah.
And then by the time you get to 8 years ago, it's just her sitting by herself and eating. And then it's like the next panel is 7 years ago and she's still eating. The next panel is 6 years ago. She's still eating silently by herself. Like whatever happened in those first 2 years with this kid basically scarred her for the rest of her time in Blackgate. And it was such a succinct way of saying she spent the next 8 years doing nothing, kind of thing. Like it was like she spent 2 years kind of not trying to be herself and like took someone under her wing. And then that person didn't make it. And that was it. Like she didn't keep, like there wasn't another kid that came along and she was like, all right, I'll protect you now. Like it was just like, that was fucked up. That happened. I'm going to ride out this time. And unbeknownst to her, she gets out early at 10 years. Like this could have been what she thought the rest of her life was. Like that's depressing as fuck.
Yeah.
Well, it also
this is a very dark depiction of like and realistic of what it would be like to be in prison like that.
This whole scene also informs the end of the previous issue when we see her be really hesitant to take Edie under her wing.
Yes.
And teach Edie and we kind of see why here because last time she let somebody in and tried to sort of mentor and protect somebody.
Take her under her wing.
So
that's what I'm saying. Like Cliff's, like the pacing and the plot.
Yes, the pacing of the storyline is fantastic.
The structure is just he did it so well.
He hits all the right notes at the right times. Like it's done so well. It's stupid. Like the cutting from Edie asking her to train her, and she's saying, "I don't know, maybe," and she's like, "Yay!" and she's like, "That's not a yes." And then like that's kind of where they leave that conversation too. Like cutting back to this memory, and you're just like, well, fuck, that's why she doesn't want to do it. Like kind of thing. Like that's a very easy thing to attribute to Catwoman's like aloofness, like her wanting to be a loner, like all by herself, like not wanting to like never quite attaching herself to Batman, so on and so on and so on. Like that's a very normal character trait for Catwoman. When you illustrate it in that way with what she went through at Blackgate, you're like, oh shit, there's like not only a very legitimate reason, but a very serious and dark reason, kind of thing as to why she doesn't want to do this.
Yep.
Anyway,
and then
really well done.
And then the next heist the team goes on is in Arkham, where they steal part of Clayface, and so there's a lot of references to the Harley Quinn show in this, and one of them is Clayface is like Shakespearean thespian actor in this, like he is in Harley Quinn.
Yeah.
Which is pretty funny. I kind of like that.
Slash Batman the Animated Series.
Oh yeah, he was an actor in that as well, but not
No,
like
but
an over the
but
top.
he was like a Hollywood,
Yeah.
like Western actor. He wasn't like
No, but he was like a Hollywood like.
No, I get that, but like in Harley Quinn, he's like he puts on like a fake. He's like a Kelsey Grammer faux British accent. Tries to be like an actor of a classically trained actor type thing.
Like when he
total
eats the
tangent,
thing
but
that they give him, and he's like, "Oh, the pain." Stay calm, sir. The pain. The valiant,
The valiant
never taste of death but once.
Stuff like that.
I do like how
man.
one of their subtle plan, like basically Ivy, to get them into the building, or nearby the building rather, was just, I'm just gonna grow a tree. And they're just like, I didn't even know there was a tree here. Like, I just like, it's such a weird, subtle, like, I can make plants grow. Well, we need to fuck with them a little bit. How about a tree's too close to their building distraction? Like kind of a weird.
But honestly, that's like
what
totally
a weird pull and
plausible.
also brilliant.
And this heist, unfortunately, stealing part of Clayface comes with a price.
Yeah, it does.
Yeah.
Also,
So they're caught early.
Wait, you know what? Shit, did I misread this? Who is fucking them up? No one.
Croc. Killer Croc is the
Well, he
betrayer.
dies.
He is.
Killer. Yes. Yeah.
When did that come out?
It's very subtle.
Subtle.
At the end, Harvey says, "I'm going to kill you, Selina, and parade your body out like Killer Croc." And then he just says he sure was a chatty guy or something like that, like implying that Croc is the one that tipped him
That's
off.
very subtle, and I don't think I
Yeah.
picked up on that.
And that's why Croc is like saying I'm sorry and stuff when he's dying.
Oh god
Yeah.
damn.
Yeah.
Which is also probably another reason he's so very valiantly like, get the fuck out of here, I'll hold this shit.
Yeah, exactly. Like I think he
Right.
regretted
that
it.
makes that all makes a lot of sense now. Also, that was very heavily implied earlier when he's like, I'm the king of Gotham. King of the beers.
But that's what I mean. One of the things I really like about how Cliff wrote this, though, is like Patrick just explained, like that really subtle Croc
Yeah,
was the
incredibly
mole
subtle. I
reveal.
didn't pick up on it. Yeah.
None of this is like spoon fed of like, oh, Croc sold you all out and did X, Y, and Z.
Oh, 100%.
Nothing
Yeah,
is
I agree with that
very-
completely.
A
Yeah.
lot of it is very just subtly implied, and I like the way Cliff wrote this. It wasn't all just spoon fed of like at the end of A, B, C, D, and E all happened in a row, and this is
Yeah, honestly,
neatly
the
tied
reason I
everything up.
probably
It was just
lost
kind
some
of
of that is because
gradually-
when I got to the end, it was so subtly done. I was so concerned with what the ending is that I kind of like missed that little subtle clue
Yeah.
of like, and then I kind of was like, wait, shit, and only talking about it with you guys right now that I go, oh wait a second, she suspected Edward Nygma of like betraying the team kind of thing, and I'm like, wait a minute, did they resolve that? Shit.
Yeah, and even things like Joe and I thinking Batman was a sweet guy when really he just wants to get resurrected.
Yeah, but really
and
he
keep
just wants
fighting.
to throw
Yeah, he
children
just
to
wants to get
war.
resurrected and keep fighting.
They get Clayface's. We don't know why they stole Clayface's a piece of his body, but they're in the tunnels getting away from, like, is it Arkham? And they're on this like train track, and Selina sees in the distance like LED lights, so she knows it's Bat Cops, and she stops it. And they're after them, and Croc like really sacrifices himself and breaks the wall down for them to get out, and he gets shot while he's holding the wall up for them to escape, and then the rubble falls on top of his body, and he's gonna die, and the Bat Cops are coming, and Selina has a gun. There's a gun on the ground. This scene was just like so fucked up because Croc, she's like, we can get you out, and he's like, no, just please let me just die with dignity, make it quick.
He says, I want to go out like a man, make it quick.
Yeah, and she just takes the gun, and you just hear blam. And
He also says, don't let them get me, and I'm like, fuck. Yeah.
Well, also the other part, he says, "I used to be the king of Gotham." Like it's just tragic.
Please.
It's just a very tragic kind of
horribly tragic.
yeah.
Also, back before this happens, this is again another super subtle thing, but like Selina goes, "Are those lights up ahead?" And then Edward Nygma is like, "Oh yeah, they don't cut the power down here. Those are lights." Almost implicating himself inadvertently in the sense of like, we should just keep going towards those lights because they keep the lights on down here. which is probably something she looked back on later and went, wait a minute.
Yes.
He said to keep going forward when it was clearly like, and I was like, man, that's subtle little clues of like why she thinks it's Eddie later. It's really brilliant.
Yeah. So Croc dies, and it's pretty sad. And then, another little subtle Two-Face thing. On TV, he starts parading around with this coin.
Yeah.
Even on
He's like,
TV
it's the only
now,
choice,
so
and he just holds the coin up. Yeah, but it's like
the walls are coming down around Two-Face. And we get another
one of
scene
his little helper guys is even like, you're holding that coin a lot.
Yeah,
it's a bit. It's a bit. Like, it's for theatrics. Get out of here.
I love that comment of even his like Steve Bannon political guys kind of like, no, actually it's another paunchy
dude.
white man who's worried about the coin. But yeah, I love that. It's kind of like, I'm a little bit worried about that coin you're holding, Harvey. He's like, no, it's theater. It's theater. Don't worry about it.
It's fine.
But one thing I wanted to mention though is in this scene, I kind of really, what came through to me, and maybe I'm off base, I don't know if it was just me, but I felt like Harvey was actually kind of genuinely struggling against Two-Face.
100%.
Like
yeah.
It's not this
his
cut and
struggle's
dry,
real.
Yeah, I mean, it's not this cut and dry like, oh, I'm evil and just pretending because I'm evil.
No,
like
not
I think
at all.
Harvey is genuinely trying to not give in to Two-Face and not
100% agree.
Two-Face again.
Although in reality,
but it's just too strong for
the politicians that he's emulating don't have a hideous monster side.
They don't. Yeah, they don't have that excuse. They don't have Two-Face.
This is just
Herschel
a
Walker
comic book.
No, Herschel Walker does, because he does have
sure,
this dissociative personality disorder or whatever it's called. So Herschel Walker has that excuse. But he has 8 faces, I think. I'm not just 2. I don't forget how many he has, but it's not just 2.
I don't know. I just know that vampires versus werewolves is a very interesting conversation.
Yeah, I still like, I feel like vampires are hotter. So I would pick a vampire.
It makes more sense. I mean, I don't know. It makes more sense to be
someone
a
like you would never elect Harvey Dent. You make me sick.
But werewolves
look beyond the aesthetics.
Werewolves don't have control over the werewolfness. A vampire is more like you're just an immortal hot person who has raves and like blood sprinklers and blade and shit. Like that's the life of a vampire. Okay, anyway, we're getting off base with Herschel Walker. But I just wanted to make that point to where in this scene, we kind of really see that Harvey, I think, is genuinely like struggling against not being evil. But
yeah, no, I think he is. I don't know if he actually wants to be a good man for the sake of being a good man, or if he just likes the attention and clout being a good man has gotten him. But he is.
I mean, he was DA before.
But
that's he was a politician. This isn't a far stretch for him to like shift into being the mayor. Like this isn't like, it's not lunacy that he's like still a political human being and trying to do what he's doing.
And then we get little Croc's funeral at the bar, and then there's kind of a neat little moment between Eddie and Selina. Again, I like how Cliff. Like the relationships are, they're not just, in a lot of these relationships just happen. And then we're just kind of after the fact, like they happened, be happy. But Cliff really builds up, like whether it's romantic or friendly or mother-daughter or whatever, like he builds those relationships throughout the 4 issues gradually. And it's not just a kind of, oh, now they're together, deal with it kind of thing. It's like, well, you see the growth of that, and so we get
There's
a
also another subtle
moment.
clue that Eddie's the one that's betraying them, because it's they were waiting for us. They probably know all about you and Ivy, and Eddie's like, well, why haven't we been pinched? I'm like, well, because you're the betrayer, kind of thing. Like, so like there's another little, like, again, it's super subtle, and in conversation it makes that point isn't made, but contextually when she is looking back at this conversation, she's going, shit, there's another, fuck, it was Eddie. Like, or if it's not, I can't trust him anymore, kind of thing. Also, but in the moment, it's a really good, like, connection between the two of them that feels real. It doesn't, like, I mean, like, would you ever have gone like, oh, Riddler and Catwoman, that makes sense, like, no, and that's
when
this happens, the connection is so real, their bond is true.
I'm sure there's plenty of fan fiction. There's probably plenty of fan fiction shipping them online, but one point I wanted to make is I like how Eddie and Selina's relationship is like a reverse mirror to Selina and Batman's. Because with Batman, Selina was the one who was emotionally approaching and trying to create something. And Batman is the one who was like, no, we got to save Gotham. And in this version, Eddie is the one who's like,
It's all about the mission.
yeah, well, no, but in this version, yeah, Eddie is the one who's more like, what are we going to do tomorrow? Or like, why don't
Eddie's
we
also like, hey, if you want to call this off, that's your call.
Yeah,
like you're in charge, like kind of thing.
Like why don't we?
I want
there's
to keep going. I think you can do this, but if you don't want to do this, like we're out, we're done.
Yeah, but it's more that idea of like I want us to be together past this and long term, and then she just answers with, "What's Orpheus? What does Orpheus mean?" Like she's more about the mission, and he's the one trying to build a relationship, which is the reverse of her trying to build a relationship and Batman being about the mission. I thought that was an interesting kind of reverse mirror relationship.
Yeah, for sure. I love their relationship. It shouldn't make sense, and it makes so much sense though.
Yeah. I think that's exactly my feeling on it, Patty. Like it shouldn't make sense. and in this story, you're like, I totally buy all of this. And it's not like a sad, like, oh, they're the only two ones left that are like still able to fuck each other. Like there's a genuine connection. I mean,
it's a little bit that. A little bit.
No, it's not.
It's a little bit that.
There's plenty of fish in the sea for Selina in this stage.
I don't know. Not if she wears that hoodie. That's all I'm gonna say.
I agree. That hoodie's got to go.
It's got to go.
All right. So
to your granddaughter.
All right. So then the next heist is they get this Mesopotamian mask, and we don't know why at the moment, but we do it. And another cool Ivy moment where they steal the mask and Selina makes a little perfect pun joke, and then Ivy just claps her hands like, "Oh, my girl." Like like a sweet little two of them together.
Well, moment. It's because her and Eddie are kind of pretending like they're reverting back to their old ways, because Eddie says,
sort of. Yeah, they're almost like
Batman.
playing. They're almost playing at who they used to be. They're like having fun at like with the stupidity of like what they used to do.
Ivy says, "You'll soon find my blossoms are as deadly as they are beautiful." And then that's when Catwoman's like, "Enough of memory lane. We got a job to do." And so when she comes back up and says that was perfect, that's like Ivy's like, "Yes, girl."
Yeah. So that was
I love what Catwoman was wearing in this scene during this heist. I thought that was like a really cool look.
It's the harness.
You know?
It is a harness, but I think it's a good look. I do also think it's a good look.
It kind of looks like Kevlar, like bulletproof.
Yeah, you mean the purple part of her on her abdomen there? Yeah.
It was a cute moment, just going back to like my overall take, how current continuity Selina Kyle like is a solo person. She does everything on her own, and how she can't get the mask. The mask has like a wire attached to it, and she's struggling, and she's like, I can't do it.
It's too heavy for her to like hold and also disconnect.
Yeah, and Ivy's like, well, we'll do it together, and it kind of just like, she's part of this team now, and she's not on her own. And yeah, I loved the fucking camaraderie between all of them.
I love the subtle, the stupid nod of like, I'm sending the decoy down next, and you don't see it, like, you know, like, because if you're reading it panel by panel, like I was electronically, you don't immediately know it's a fake ass cat mask. Like you think they're like. You know, you don't think they're doing like a bag of sand with the golden idol Indiana Jones style. Like, you think they're gonna like replace it with like a perfect replica of like what was there, and it's just a cat mask. I'm sending the decoy down. Like, why did you even call it that? It's just a big fuck you to the museum people that walk in the next day.
But so the next scene, we find out that they stole that Mesopotamian mask because it was really covering Dr. Fate's helmet, and they're using that to, I guess, bribe Jason Blood, who possesses the power of the demon Etrigan, to help them.
I also love how Jason Blood's house is just decorated with portraits of himself throughout the centuries.
Yeah, the centuries.
Again, I know we've said this. We've said this about everyone, but like every character in this book, I love how
so well written,
portrays them.
So well written.
Every A to Z, they're all incredible.
Also, his portraits are all facing the same way while he's standing the same way in front of his portraits. Like, it's pretty funny. Yeah. It's pretty great.
It's wonderful. And then later when we meet Etrigan, it's even like, it's just, I love Etrigan.
Also, I love the little subtle, like, Eddie's jealous of Jason because he's very Bruce Wayne like and like sort of flirting with Selina, but not really. I don't know. Like, there's a little bit of tension there, but Eddie's clearly like the jealous boyfriend.
But
Like kind of reading into it too much, maybe, or Selina's like, "Don't worry about it. I'm like, I don't give a fuck about this guy." But he's like, "Oh, and I guess Jason's there now." You know, like kind of like those comments keep coming up. It's pretty funny.
But I love that because, again, like that was my favorite part, I think, of their entire relationship, because Jason Blood is this rich, wealthy, handsome man.
Yeah.
And he's obviously into Selena, and they leave, and Eddie's jealous, and he's like, well, you certainly have a type, or something like that. And she goes, what do you mean? And I think he says something along the lines of like, you know, tall, dark, brooding. And she's like, oh, I thought you meant redheads, because Jason Blood is also a redhead, and so is Eddie. And I was like, oh, that is so fucking adorable. And then Eddie
also
says,
he also acknowledges that, though, in that moment. He's like, good one. All right, you got
yeah,
it.
he goes,
kind of thing. Like, it's kind of, it's adorable.
Yes.
Yeah.
He says, oh, you're a quick one. What is it? He goes, geez, I thought Batman had a shtick. And she goes, he's not so bad. And Eddie goes, wow, you really do have a type. And she goes, how do you mean? Tall, dark, and insanely wealthy? And she goes, oh, I thought you meant redheads. And he goes, heh, you're a quick one. Yeah, but like, it's just
really
like,
cute moment.
It's so fucking cute. It's just so.
Yeah. But then unfortunately they walk into Bat Guards, and so a lot happens kind of at the end of this issue. But so while they're at Jason Blood's place, Harvey is standing on top of a tank.
A bat tank.
Just directly in front of a woman in a wheelchair.
Knight Returns bat tank.
So he's standing on top of a tank, again in Crime Alley in front of the Monarch Theater. In front of Babs and like the protesters,
a bunch of bat cops going up against a bunch of cat wearing mask protesters.
Yeah. So there's a standoff happening, and then in the meantime, Eddie and Selina run into bat cops, and they have to run and stuff. And then Selina kind of stumbles into the crowd, and then Harvey gets mad, and Harvey just says like, "Shoot everybody!" And they shoot everybody.
Yeah,
it's fucking crazy. Also, I really love the subtle like Eddie peel off now. Like you don't even see him leave on screen, so to speak. Like they're just having a conversation, and she's like, "Get out of here," and then he's gone the next panel. Like there's no like she sees cops and immediately like goes, "I'll handle this." Like or rather they're after me. Like why be connected to me during this?
Right.
You know. Interact. Really cool moment. But also he does just start shooting into the crowd. Also, the cops are shown as mildly sympathetic. And this is one of the first moments, but there's a couple other subtle times throughout. But, like, Harvey will, like, crazily say something, and they'll be like, yeah, but the commissioner... And he's like, he's not here right now! You know, kind of thing. There's a lot of... And you're like, okay, so they're sort of not painting the cops as these assholes. They're kind of
disagree.
Going, like, it's really hard.
So I just want to make a point that all cops are bastards, all of them, including these. And
sure,
I mean, the 2 seconds of hesitation doesn't make up for the fact that they then start firing into the crowd. I'm sorry, but
oh no, well that's the thing. Like it's some other cop. I'm just saying there's like random cops in this like throughout this book that are like, wait, should we not do that, you know, kind of thing, and then somebody else just like whatever, shoot.
I think
this was directly was this scene, I would bet my life on it that Cliff, this is a direct allegory to Trump using the military to attack those protesters. 100% is what it's reflecting. Like
this is people at a church across from the White House. Is that
like what happens when the most powerful person in the country or the most powerful person in the city is telling the people at his disposal to attack? Like they do hesitate for a moment. They're like, he goes, she's getting away, why don't you fire? And he goes, into the crowd, they're not doing anything. Yeah. And he's like, yes, now they're harboring a criminal. And so
he's like, but the commissioner said he's not here, is he? Now do your fucking job. And
okay, but then they do their job and they do shoot. So fuck them.
Yeah, and that's exactly what he was talking to is
my point.
But that's exactly what happened in real life, right? Like I think most people would say using the military to attack peaceful protesters probably isn't the best use of our military. But when you have a person of a certain character in a powerful position telling them what to do, you know, do you follow the hierarchy or do you follow what you morally think is right? And obviously these back cops they wouldn't be bad cops if they weren't loyal to the
Also,
institution.
Well, I'll tell you what. Hey, Patrick, are they bat cops or are they bad cops?
Oh,
Am I right?
nailed it. One quick note here, and so Cliff does something really amazing here. There's two little panels right at the end of all this fight breaking out, and one panel is it cuts to like Babs's partner, and it's just watching TV, and it just says live from Crime Alley. So they're clearly watching it on TV. But then, and her son Wayne is just like coloring, and then the next panel is her son Wayne like looking up at the TV, but the hands on his shoulders are clearly her partner because she's moved away from the television, and that just like that personalization of like the horror of like, oh, my mom is out in that crowd, and also this is horrifyingly brutal, but also my mom's there. Like, he took the time, even though it's two panels, to just like make it real for like 2 seconds before moving on, and I fucking love it. And it's just like that right there is a very succinct way of like moment of Cliff just crushing it out from this whole series.
Yeah, Cliff's
Well, just
doing
back
Lord's
to
work
the detail as well. The Wayne, Barbara's son, is coloring, and what he's coloring is basically what Selina's cat looks like in Batman the Animated Series.
The cat. Yeah.
He's drawing a cat.
Siamese cat.
Yeah.
So they fire into the crowd. They also arrest Babs, like they tip her out of her wheelchair and arrest her, which is kind of. And then we see like TV reports and Harvey just sort of like losing it.
Also, a quick note that the bar is destroyed in that.
Yeah,
and they describe it as like, I don't know, a big crowd happened, and then suddenly somebody knocked over candles and the whole bar went up, and you're like, yeah, they went in there and did that. Like, they targeted that bar, kind of.
Definitely.
That's the feeling you get.
So then, all right, a little plot point. So the Riddler in disguise grabs a coffee cup that the commissioner threw away, and that'll come back in just a second. And then he goes to deliver it, but Selina basically kicks him and Edie out of the group.
Off the team. You're off the team.
Says, yeah,
I don't even think I'm in.
Yeah. And later we find out it's because Selina thought Eddie might be the mole, and so she's getting him out. And next, we see that Harvey gets the sad news that certain moneyed interests don't want to build a stadium in Gotham anymore.
They're pulling out on the stadium. Press.
Yeah, because of shooting at innocent civilians.
And he doesn't handle it well.
He does not handle it well.
I'm in control. But again, I'm still a good man.
But I think we do see that, though he's not handling it well, it's not quite like I'm an evil villain trying to be evil. Like this is a man struggling with his dark half. But yeah, not so much in control. And
he's not in control, but he is struggling with like a side of him that he doesn't have control over. Like it's like it's a sympathetic villain in that respect, I guess. His struggle is real, I guess is what I'm saying. He's not just, as we were kind of touching on earlier. It's not him just like playing everyone at all times,
Okay, so we get a flashback to the beginning of Fool's Night, and we get that scene that we referenced earlier where Batman shows some tenderness towards Selina, although to Patrick's point, maybe that was just to manipulate her into reviving him later once he died. But then back in the present, we find out the reason they needed Clayface's clay is to copy the commissioner's face so that they could talk the guards of Bruce Manor into leaving.
Yeah.
So that they could sneak into the Batcave with Jason Blood. One thing Jason Blood's transformation, part of me sort of wishes he had just died.
Yeah, that's what happened.
Like I thought that was hilarious because
I think that's just this is the pain I go through every time, but also I thought that. I mean, obviously if that happened every time, then why would he be alive for thousands of years?
But the page it happens on is he says like whatever changed form of man, blood of demon, blah blah blah, and he like burns up, and the page ends with like it's just his skeleton dead and burnt on the ground. And so part of me was like laughing of like, oh, is that it? Like, is that what we
Also,
get?
they sort
from
of
Jason
they
Blood?
sort of do that every time he changes in like other media and like the cartoons and stuff. They just
I've never-
like it's just a burst of flame though. Like you
Yeah.
don't really like see the but I mean like this is just one of those like end of Indiana Jones style, like the skin melts off and you're like, holy shit, that
He
is
legit
painful.
just fully dies in this. But then the
Once-
next page, it actually is Etrigan.
Yeah, Etrigan like comes out of this. What? But it is kind of like one of those moments, like in the first X-Men movie, when Rogue asks Wolverine if it hurts when the claws come out, and he says every time, and it's like,
Yeah.
oh
And you're
wow,
like,
every
I
time.
never thought
about it, and it's like every time Jason turns into Etrigan, he literally like burns to death.
Yeah, he's got blades cutting out of his hands every time he does it. It hurts every time. Like, does that hurt? Like, why hasn't that thought never occurred to us?
But I thought he was dead too, because before he transforms, he says, "Miss Kyle, Dr. Isley, it's been an honor and a pleasure to know you." I thought like he was at his limit of how many times he could transform, and like this was it. Like once.
I mean, it did seem kind of final.
Yeah. But he comes back, but whatever.
He does later come back. All right, but so it is then Etrigan is there, and he
Maybe he assumed they weren't going to survive.
Maybe. Yeah, that's true. Very good point.
That could be, yeah, because Etrigan is a little bit kind of two-facey. You can't really control Etrigan. Sort of like you can't really control Two-Face.
Yeah,
but,
anyway. When he gives up that part of himself, like he doesn't know what's going to happen on the other side of the whatever's waiting when he comes back.
And I couldn't tell, because Etrigan's about to kill both Ivy and Catwoman, and I couldn't tell. Selina calms him down by like saying Jason Blood struck a deal that if you betray us, like he'll trap you for 1,000 years or something. And I'm like, was that a real thing, or did Selina just like make that up on the fly? Because that's when Etrigan like lets them go. But yeah.
All right.
I mean, it seems like it's a thing that Jason Blood would have given them a heads up on, and that it is real. But it also could have just been something she said in the moment to like stop him from murdering them.
Well, because he was very like he said it multiple times. He's like, you don't understand my other half. He's wild, unpredictable. You don't understand.
Yeah.
You don't. I did love that in that scene when he goes, Selina, like, keep in mind, demons are real and they walk the earth. Like that was kind of a creepy line he had.
Super good.
Well, that's what he's. Yeah, I mean, Etrigan's out of control. He's kind of like Patrick after a few margs into the evening.
Yeah,
you know,
only like one or two even.
After a few margs and the internet not working.
Yeah, that's it. All right, but so now we're to the final.
Patrick, next time you get really angry at your internet, you just be like, "Rise the demon, Etrigan!"
I know. God in the form of man.
All right, the final issue 4, book 4, titled and themed "The Underworld." Oh, so this time we don't do the fucking. God damn it! God damn it! There it was. Okay, so we get more flashbacks to Fool's Night, and it's Joker
calls Batman Bruce. That's interesting.
Yeah, so apparently Joker knows Bruce is Bruce Batman. Yeah, Bruce is Bruce and Bruce is Batman.
Bruce is Bruce. Yeah, I think Bruce is Bruce.
But it's a quick cameo. We get the fuller later flashback later, but right now it's just kind of a quick Joker's there.
Yeah.
So back to Etrigan's kind of choke holding both Selina and Ivy, but then as Patrick mentioned, Selina says,
"We had a deal.
If you don't let us go, Jason's going to prison you."
I'm positive Selina made up on the fly because she said we had a deal. Etrigan says a bargain with blood is not with Etrigan. And then she says, Merlin's beard, if we are harmed, Jason will keep you imprisoned. And there was something about saying Merlin's beard that made Etrigan.
Well, that's basically like her saying, I swear to God.
But then
that's his version.
But Ivy says Merlin's beard, and Selina just says, just go with it. Like it just seemed like Selina made that shit up on the
I think
fly.
she did, yeah. She just made it up to just control Etrigan, yeah.
Oh, I think, yeah.
I've got to say though, I love Etrigan in this.
I mean, he can be handled poorly, don't get me wrong, but I feel like over recent, and I say recent in the terms of like the JLA cartoon, for God's sakes, but I mean like recent times have like really nailed down like what it is that thing is, and they've gotten a really good handle on like playing that the right way, and I think that they did it really well in this book, though.
Yeah, but
again, a lot of homages to the animated series in this, like, and I feel like this is kind of driven from that, especially with the Clarion aspect of like his I don't know, enemy, so to speak, kind of thing.
Well, we'll get to Clear in a second, but I love Etrigan in this. So another character that Cliff just creates and writes awesomely.
I love how Etrigan kind of mocks them. She's like, can't you just say something like open sesame? He's like, open sesame. Oh, look how that didn't work, you stupid bitch.
Well, I like how he plays
doing.
it as this, he's this sort of pompous, like overly proud, not buffoon, but like, so they're going through all these like Batcave traps. And at one point the ceiling crawls on them and they're like, and Etrigan is holding it and he's like, no, it's fine. I could just give me a minute. It's fine.
Yeah.
And then Ivy ends up saving them with her plans. And then she makes a joke like, don't bother. You're not the first guy who couldn't finish the job. Like, as a joke. And then Etrigan just says, thou darest. Like, I love that. He's like, thou darest mock Etrigan. Like, I
love the quick cut to Zatanna in like Las Vegas as like a
great
shitty magician who clearly held Bruce with this magical spell in the Batcave. And just she feels it get unlocked, and then she's like, whatever, and just like moves on with her dumb magic show. And that's
she's surrounded by like magic mics in some Vegas show. Yeah,
I mean, why wouldn't she be?
Why not? She's gotten a little thick too, though. To be honest,
those fishnets look good on those hips.
Hey, I'm not saying they don't. But so they break into the Batcave. There's so one flashback I wanted to talk about is yet another character. I love how Cliff writes. So we get a flashback to Batman and Joker just fighting. Like, again, Gordon's already dead at this point. It's Fool's Night is devolving into more chaos. And Batman's just beating the shit out of Joker. And the whole time, I just love this. Again, another character who shows vulnerability. So as Batman's beating the shit out of Joker, Joker says, why do you play by the rules no one else is following? There's no rhyme or reason to this world. It's all one big joke, and I'm so tired of laughing. And then he blows himself up. His facial
expression when he says, I'm so tired of laughing,
it's like a real defeated look. Like it's a real, I'm at the end of my rope.
I'm done here.
Look.
Also, in that moment, Selina picks up a gun and fires it, and it's a bang flag. And you're just like, so that's like a real throwaway thing. But she was just trying to shoot the Joker.
She was going to shoot
like,
Joker.
I've got nothing left here. Like, we can't do anything.
Murder him.
Yeah. And also, like the quick, like, Bruce, get away. And then it's like, and you're like, oh,
and then
shit.
He blows up. But I don't know. I just, something about that Joker, I don't know. I just thought it was really well done. This just defeated, like he's also over it. Like he can't laugh anymore. The world is too broken, even for the Joker to continue to laugh and so chaos.
I mean, once you fire up that white right-wing crowd, I mean, what else is there?
But I think that's the point Cliff is sort of making is like
once you January 6th Gotham, like it's
that's it. Like if the world is so broken at that point, it's not a joke anymore.
Even the Joker's
it's not fun anymore. That's the end. That's the end.
Well, did either
also,
of you get the,
I know Batman has full confidence in Selina to like get into the Batcave, but the size of that door and where the Batarang needs to be placed for her to open that door is insane. Who does that? Like, what? It's a 30-foot door, and there's a tiny thing with like no way to get to it where you could put a Batarang on it and be like, you now have entrance to the Batcave.
I mean, Bruce does stuff like that. That's who does.
I know he does. I'm just saying, it's insanity.
I mean, Bruce is insane.
This is the equivalent of like Superman's giant key to get into the Fortress of Solitude.
Yeah. Also, though, like Selina didn't have to do all that work. Like Ivy could have just used a vine to put it.
She needed to do it, Betty.
Selina had to prove to herself that she could do it. Patrick.
I know. They made that very clear, but
also Etrigan has cool freezing
is that once you unlock the door, it slams down. What?
And Etrigan has cool little freezing powers too. Little Iceman freezing powers.
He really did a Mr. Freeze move on that waterfall there.
Yeah, and so again, it's just more of like Fool's Night flashbacks as they sneak into the cave, and Batman's just kind of like, Orpheus, blah blah blah.
Yeah, we're getting a little bit more of like what actually happened that night, which is important because you haven't seen it up until this point. We've already discussed it ourselves, so.
Yeah, and that's standard kind of narrative. They hint at things and then reveal it at the end. So they get to the Batcave, and the Batcave is the standard. There's the giant T-Rex for reasons nobody remembers, and a giant coin, and a giant Joker card. They're all there. Mr. Freeze's guns. Catwoman's little mask.
Going back, me kind of like backtracking on my opinion of Batman. He is a little bit sentimental because that was the mask she was wearing the first night they kind of tangled in that flashback. Yeah. It falls off her face, and he kept it.
But he also kept it
that he did not turn in for evidence, apparently.
That too.
But Patrick, he also kept it right next to Mr. Freeze's gun, so he valued the two things equally.
Yeah. Okay, you're right.
Yeah,
he's a sociopath.
Trophies.
He is a sociopath.
There's a subtle nod here in the overview of the cave, but there's the 66 Batmobile, there's the 89 Batmobile, and above it is very subtly the old school Batmobile from old comic books. And then to the right of that is a red Batmobile, which is literally the first Batmobile ever.
Yeah, that's like the maroon red one is the first one.
Yeah, the very, very first one. I thought that was pretty cool.
They're in the Batcave, and Selina finds Orpheus is just this like black water pit.
Black goo. Yeah.
Black goo pit.
He basically found a way to offset or combine the Lazarus pit with what? Some other version?
Venom.
That's right.
Bane's Venom times Lazarus pits resurrects you without making you crazy, but you die.
But it doesn't last long?
Yeah, and it only lasts, he does it on Alfred. Alfred lasts 2 weeks, I think, after he
It seems like that, yeah.
Hey, look, 2 weeks is more than most men last, am I right?
I mean,
more like 2 minutes.
Red chemical additives, Al, I can last a long time.
So
I know.
you
I
see
thought
this
it was
flashback.
interesting. So this kind of goes back to what I was saying before. So did Bruce? Bruce did want her to bring him to the Orpheus pit, correct?
Yeah.
But he knew that it wouldn't last long. I think what his goal was to save the city in that moment. It wasn't bring me back to life so I can just keep doing this.
That's
shit
exactly
forever.
what he wanted. Yeah.
Well, I'm just saying, knowing that it's time constrictive, knowing that it's not forever, kind of thing. It's less of
But it goes back to Patrick's point about he didn't really care about her. He just cared about, bring me back for a week so I can save Gotham, and then fuck you,
I think for Selina, the big reveal is for her, or the realization. So her last interaction, Batman says something about Orpheus. It can save the city and probably save him. She gets arrested. She spends 10 years in prison trying to figure out what Orpheus is. She finds out that all it would have done is let Batman fight for 6 more days. And she realizes at that point, it was always the mission. It was never she was never going to be more important to him than his war on crime.
She literally said the cape came first. I knew that, and yet nothing else mattered. Nothing else mattered. Not even me.
Yeah.
So I think that was that was that was heart-wrenching for her. But great writing, great setup. It was great.
Also, I mean, not to be a douche, but very true to Batman's character.
Yeah.
So again, Cliff, hats off. You're crushing it.
Also, a little costume note. I was reading in the show notes after this. Selina's costume in this, which is sort of a poncho draped over her Catwoman suit, is based on Irma Vep, which was I don't know if you saw that. It's an HBO show based on a film, which was based on a 1930s silent film. But she was the original femme fatale in the 20s or 30s, whenever that was.
Thank you for that.
Yeah, and Irma Vep is it's vampire in reverse is Irma Vep, but that's what the original name is.
Very interesting.
Also, I actually liked that little HBO series, by the way, if you ever get a chance.
Also, quick nod to, again, the clothing. Winston is wearing Aqualad Tempest.
Oh, that's what that is.
He's wearing a Tempest thing, all right, and so Harvey crashes the party with his tank, which is so good at shooting civilians, he thought he'd bring it into the Batcave.
Yeah, why not? Yeah.
As well. I also like how his bulletproof vest just says mayor on it. I just kind of like how it's labeled. Like, this is the mayor's bulletproof vest.
The mayor. Oh, I'm gonna be mayor.
It's during this whole scene because he says, I get to parade your corpse around for votes. And he says, just like Croc, such a chatty guy. And then Selina has internal monologue and she says, oh, Croc, no. And then Harvey says, guess he owes me a beer. And then
No, I owe him a beer.
Oh, guess I owe him a beer.
Yeah.
Oh.
She's like, fuck you, Harvey. But it's like that reveal happens like during the action climax of the entire story.
Thank you for the subtlety, Cliff.
Yep.
Also, Etrigan eating a guy's head is...
Yeah, I was going to say, unleashing Etrigan on the police is he just rips the head off and starts eating the body.
Good.
It's unreal.
So good.
Even Harvey like covers his mouth basically at seeing that. It's pretty great. But then we get to see another one who's kind of Clarion's put on some weight too.
They've all put on some weight. Yeah,
they've all put on. He's a little big.
He's more pear shaped in this. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it's just his clothing. I don't know. I don't necessarily agree with that.
He's
That
got some
clothing's
white
hanging
hips.
off of a very thin body under that, I feel.
But I like how so Clarion kills Etrigan, and then Jason Blood comes back, and he refers to Clarion as a witch boy, and Clarion just says, "I'm a witch man." I just love that.
It's a very Zoolander
And as
moment.
he says that,
Merman, Dad.
But as he says that, his little cat is like turning into a werecat man behind him. It's amazing. So then they start fighting, but then they just get teleported out of there.
Well, I do love how it was just let's get the magic people out of here somehow. I'll just do this.
Yeah.
It's definitely one of those
Cliff,
things, but I like it.
I appreciate how Cliff introduced them, but then he's like, you know what? We don't need it.
Yeah, because you think you're gonna see a big like magical fight, and it's just like, nope, they're gone.
They're gone
on the astral plane or some shit.
And then so they
if you are
start
to
fighting.
survive, we must away.
And I like how Catwoman's using all sorts of old gadgets like Scarecrow's fear gas, the Penguin's umbrella gun. She's kind of breaking out all these old mementos to fight them.
Even the fear gas with the thank you officer. No, what's wrong? And it's just like a bug mask with like maggots crawling out of the eyes. You're just like, Jesus Christ, that's horrible.
But then Ivy ends up saving her. She, uses her vines to kind of abscond.
Yeah, I like how she whisks her away with that, though. Nice.
Whisks away Selina, and then Ivy kind of sacrifices herself to bring down the
cave around her. Yeah, that's
and then we have a moment where
moment.
Selina.
I just felt like it wasn't. It just reminded me of like Kevin Costner's death in Man of Steel. Like, I just feel like Ivy.
Like it seemed a little pointless.
Like
it was it was kind of forced.
It didn't.
It wasn't as necessary as it could have been. Like there's other ways to have achieved that, maybe.
Right.
Yep. And then we see Selina decide not to use Orpheus.
Why would she have used it anyways? I guess it gives you like superhuman strength.
It gives you
about 2
super
weeks,
strength. So I don't know how it would have helped her really, but
I don't think it's about using it or not using it. I think it's about stopping Harvey from getting a hold of it at this point. Like it's like she's already recognized what it is at this point and just goes, "What the fuck, Bruce?" Like kind of thing. She's moved past
but she
using
says
it herself.
How long would I have if I used it? Would it be enough? I mean, she was saying that.
Yeah, but I even then I don't think it's like her decision's already been made. Like knowing what it is, she's just like, fuck this. Like that's not even a hard choice.
Yeah. So anyway, she blows it up. She gets out. Another fashion choice. Two-Face is wearing what looks like a Panerai watch, which is a famous Italian luxury watch brand. So just wanted to point that out.
Very random, but okay.
They're wonderful watches, but they're minimum. They start at like 8-9K. They're very expensive, but it looks like he's wearing a little Panerai watch there. But so she gets out of the cave. There's a scene here where we see one of Joe's quote unquote good cops, that Joe's always talking about.
Yeah, the ones I talk about all the time. Do it yourself.
Yeah, so we see one of them here, but then Harvey kills him.
Yeah.
And then Edie saves Selina.
Yes,
she shows up.
And her mask is terrifying, but I love it.
I love it.
I also love that she has like specific branded pink flares. Like, where do you get a pink flare like that to match your shirt?
Is that what that was? I don't know.
I don't know.
I also like that Edie is young enough to wear a hoodie properly.
Yeah,
She is.
absolutely.
It looks
She's
good on
rocking
her.
the hoodie costume.
Yes, it makes
because
sense.
it's age appropriate.
But so Edie and Eddie are there. They help. And then we get the final confrontation, of course, with, I don't know how I felt about Two-Face for the billionth time being foiled by a coin flip. Like, I feel like that's every...
I don't know if it was
Two-Face
foiled
ends
by.
with,
I
like,
think it was
flipping a
more
coin.
like it was almost the antithesis of that.
I think
like,
it was the official. Yeah,
Yeah, like
No.
he flipped the coin and it was like not the right choice, and he was like, "Fuck the coin," and he like did it anyway. Like I think that
Yep.
was less of a foiled by
Yeah,
the
that's what
coin
kind of
and more
broke the
a
Two-Face, right?
yeah.
But it is
Well,
kind of a trope that, like,
Yeah.
it's always some sort of coin flip twist is what undoes.
That-
like in Batman
that I can see, yeah,
Forever,
sure.
It's like that fucks him up, and
She
it always
does throw a
seems to be
batarang right in his eye, which is very reminiscent.
His good eye.
of the
His
Dark
good eye, not the
Knight
monster eye, but
Returns.
his pretty eye.
Joker also
Yeah, that-
gets a batarang right in the eye. Classic.
Yeah, but it's like it's his pretty eye. Like the
it's his
handsome
pretty eye. But
gets
the
batarang.
point is, Al, it's referencing the Dark Knight Returns, which I know you love as a book, as a story.
Look, anything Frank Miller touches, I love. He's probably the greatest comic book author to ever walk the earth. I think we can all agree on that.
I do like that the resolution of this story, like as we get to the end, is like, Two-Face doesn't die. He has a bandage on his eye. He goes to jail. Like there's a less final that is typical to comic books, like way of like that guy died and that guy died and the bad guy died and this guy, like, it's very like you did wrong.
Well,
you're
it's
going
very-
to jail. Like you fucked up.
Yeah,
buddy.
but it's
kind of
it's
thing, and I like that.
But it's very traditional comics. Like historically, that's how
Oh,
comics
sure.
are. Oh, Joker goes to jail. Two-Face goes to jail. Like it's that kind of. It's not like in movies. It's more where like, oh, Joker dies in Batman 1, Two-Face dies in Batman 2.
True. Yeah, I guess it's the movie. Yeah, you're right. It is more comic book esque, and it's not and this is one of those, of course. But I guess it's the movies that are making me feel that way. But
well, but also like I feel like he could have died because it's a future storyline, so who cares?
yeah, exactly.
But Selina spent 10 years in prison, and now Harvey's going to spend, like, for all we know,
Theoretically
Harvey
longer,
set her
yeah.
up to get into prison. You know what I mean? So it seems like more of a nice bookend to the story that he's going to prison instead of.
But
him.
he's not. He's going to Arkham. He's not going to Blackgate.
Arkham. Yeah, you're right.
Oh, he'll be out of there in a week.
That's historically that's how Arkham works. Yeah.
Yeah.
But Babs does win election night. Hey, also Wayne wearing a handsome little suit.
Yeah, and also holding a cat mask when he's falling asleep later. Next
Yeah,
to Ace
not
the
wearing a
Bat Dog.
tie, so no tie, but a little suit. So I get
I
a
mean,
little
he's buttoned up-
seafoam
He's
green
buttoned up
suit.
all nice. He's buttoned up all night.
That's
Looks
something.
good.
And Babs is just there getting a hashtag Blaze Life while he falls asleep.
She is blazing on her dad's
Just
old
holding
pipe,
that
yeah.
pipe.
Blaze life. And then
I mean,
Jason Blood is probably reading a book about himself, I imagine.
probably. Let's read.
he's
let's
got-
look back
does
at my
he-
many adventures.
Does he have Clarion's cat there? though?
Yeah, he
That's
does.
exactly
He
what it
has
is.
Clarion's
Okay.
cat on his lap. Yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah. Love this book. I mean, this is great.
Honestly, just
and then there's a
reviewing
little
it now, like I have way more even appreciate like all the details y'all have pointed out in his art that I missed.
Yeah.
I'm like,
Yeah.
this is so fucking good.
I like Poison Ivy's grave site.
Yeah.
With the
Yeah,
tree.
the
And
giant
I love the little
tree
epilogue
splitting
with
open Wayne
Edie
Mansion.
becoming Catwoman. It's awesome.
It's kind of like a little Batman Beyond type feeling. I
Yeah,
loved it.
a little
It
bit.
was like,
I love
Yep,
seeing
and
her
then
eyes through those golden cat eyeballs. They're
Yeah.
fantastic. It's fantastic.
and then it ends with. I know you guys don't like that it ends with Babs in the scene, but I really liked the last page.
no, I
But so
loved
it ends with Selina and Babs talking, and Babs is kind of intimating like, why don't you become the new Batman? Like I can be the Mayor Gordon, like commissioner, and you can be Batman, and we can work together. And then at the end, Selina just says, she says like, no, I don't want to do that. And she makes a comment about how like the skyscrapers now look disgusting, Gotham's all changed or whatever. But at the end, she says, actually looking at the city, they look great. Like they look like jewels. and you kind of see that old like thief glint in her eyes, and I kind of like how it ended.
Again, it's fantastic. Like from beginning
of like,
to
I'm
end,
not going to fight crime. I'm not going to be Batman. I'm going to be Catwoman.
Yeah, it was.
kinda
So
like that.
I have one question for you guys concerning specifically Barbara. If she's Batgirl on Fool's Night and Joker dies, why is she in a wheelchair?
I just thought it was a choice.
I assumed it was from
Destined
Fool's
to be in
Night.
a wheelchair?
No, I assumed it was from Fool's Night. In some other way, she was hurt.
All right,
and
it's just
paralyzed.
an interesting. I mean, obviously the killing joke never happened, so that was
No,
weird.
it did not. But I like the kind of bait and switch Cliff pulls on this last scene of like setting up. Oh, like Commissioner Gordon and Batman used to be a team. Now Babs and Selina are going to be a team and fight crime. But then instead,
Well, also
Selina's
Barbara
just
is
like,
Commissioner
I'm
in
gonna be
Batman
Catwoman.
Beyond too. So like, there's that. There's that like correlation too that I think is interesting.
It stays true to Catwoman because she's not going to be Batman. She's not going to be necessarily on the streets beating up criminals. She's going to be
she's
going
gonna be the
after
Catwoman.
white collar. She's going to be going after like white collar crime, mobsters, like basically after their financials.
Yeah, she's going to use
not
the Minority Report gloves while Edie goes out and does Catwoman thing.
exactly. Yeah.
I don't know what else to say. I just love. Oh wait. Do you guys hear that? Oh Jesus! No, I hear this jingle in my ear. I don't know if you hear.
Oh, what
this.
is it?
Does this pass the Bechdel test? The Bechdel
answer is
test.
probably
the Bechdel
no.
test. Does this pass the Bechdel test? The answer is probably no, but it's yes this time. This time it's yes.
I guess
so
that's
Cliff,
what if you give a writer artist with no restraints of continuity or where this is gonna go, yeah, you can write anything you want. Good job.
yeah,
good
so
job,
this
Cliff. You
passes. So
pass.
I gotta say, Cliff, good work. It passes the Bechdel test. There are scenes with only women talking, although there are scenes of only women talking about men a lot. So you could do better, just to be constructive here. You could do
Sure.
better, but you did pass the Bechdel test. So congrats.
Also, I mean, Eddie Nigma, he's just a sexy lamp though, like the whole time. Like he doesn't do anything.
Eddie, yeah,
It's
Eddie.
pointless.
Also, half of Harvey Dent is a pretty sexy lamp.
Sexy lamp. Makamori test, yeah, 100, like 1,000-fold.
Yeah, no, this is a great. It's good for all those tests.
But
I mean,
classic
almost like-
Cliff Chiang, I have to say, no one is remotely on the Snyder Zoo scale.
No, Etrigan's pretty ripped.
Are you kidding?
Listen,
It's a
if
doughboy.
Ultimate's Hulk isn't up to Snyder Zoo scale, then
No,
Etrigan
nobody in this is. Yeah.
is
The problem
Ultimate
is,
Hulk is definitely on Snyder Zoo scale.
yeah, but the problem is Cliff Chiang's art is a little bit too stylized to really register on the scale because the scale
Yeah.
needs like real chiseled from marble looks. that you're not
again,
going to get.
I have this issue, Al, where I feel like me and Patty have been on the same page since day one of what the Snyder Zoo scale means and is. And you have drastically shifted and changed over the podcast episodes. I have no idea what makes sense to you or what should be on or off the scale. Like I don't get it.
I
just
think
don't
we
get
could
it.
agree nobody in this registers on the Snyder Zoo scale.
All right. Does
we
this
agree.
book pass the Mobius Couch test of being awesome? Yes.
Yeah, so I loved it. I recommend it. Everybody just read it. I thought it was great. I don't know if I have to summarize. We just spent hours talking about it. Great characters, great art, fun story. It's not super long. It's not like a 24-issue arc. I recommend it. Get it and read it.
100% agree. Don't have anything else to add. It's that good. It's just fantastic art, fantastic story, fantastic everything. Read it.
I also agree. You should definitely read this. It was fantastic. I read it twice, and then I've reviewed it just now with y'all as we recorded this episode, and it's fantastic. Every time I've noticed more stuff that I didn't notice the previous time. It's not only should you read it, you should reread it a few times just to catch everything.
Cliff has some deep cuts in there. You gotta read it a second time and just go, oh, look at that.
Also, if anyone from like Time Warner marketing is listening, I really do think like y'all have something here with the apparel business if you just adapt some of these designs.
Also, make this a movie.
Also making a movie. Yeah.
Yeah.
And another thing I can't stress enough is Cliff Chiang wrote, penciled, inked, and lettered this whole thing. Like, that's really impressive. So
Yeah, it's astoundingly impressive. Also, it's not impossible to do. Other people have done such a thing. What's incredible is how good it is.
Yeah.
So he's not missing a beat on any of those jobs. He filled all those jobs and did it all himself, and it's fucking good. And that's, I think, is something to be said.
Yeah, it's just below, like, when Frank Miller writes and draws his own thing is obviously the best, but Cliff Chiang is
of course. Yeah, it's good. Of course, that's the best.
All right, I think that's it. So this gets the seal of approval.
We did it, boys. Yeah.
We did it. People of the world, thank you.
Good journey.
Goodbye, everybody.